Chapter 630. By one free 1-inch ha, that shark's teeth weren't very sturdy, Jangwon said with a laugh. Not very sturdy? What do you mean? Yushu blinked confusedly. Mingyao couldn't help but want to laugh. Her best friend looked like an idiot, but unknowingly, she could twist other people's words around and mess with them. That shark might have had fake teeth. That's why it wasn't sturdy. Tai Zhao quickly helped Jangwon out of the predicament. Fake teeth? Sharks go to dentists? Yushu said, surprised. There's a clinic in the sea? Jangwon was pissed. Was there something wrong with this Tai Zhao? Even if he was drunk, he shouldn't be talking nonsense. Sharks had fake teeth? Did he think it was a human? No, don't listen to him. Jangwon said quickly. The shark I hit was an old one. Its teeth were loose, so it couldn't take a hit. Oh, it's an old shark. Yushu nodded. Jangwon bro, you're amazing. You can even tell that it's an old shark. Haha, that's true. Alright, let's not talk about this. Let's move on to the next question. Jangwon waved his hand. I'll invite you to my house one day. I still have the shark skin. Oh, alright, I've never seen an old shark skin before. I'll have to get someone to appraise it. Yushu nodded. Sharks are my favorite thing to do. Jangwon almost scolded himself for being an idiot. Why did he bring up shark skin for no reason? What if Yushu went to see it? Where would he get it for her? Shark skin was easy to find, as he could just buy one from the market, but old shark skin was hard to find. What if Yushu found out that it wasn't an old shark? Wouldn't he be slapping himself in the face? Alright, we'll talk about it another day. Jangwon could only force himself to agree. He turned to Yutian. Yutian bro, it's my turn to ask. Okay, go ahead. Chen Yutian looked at Jangwon making a fool out of himself. He felt that it was funny. His sister was really a clown. She could even squeeze someone to death with her words. Who is the most important person to you? And Jangwon wanted to ask some tricky questions, but remembered that Tai Zhao said that the first round would be some normal questions. It wouldn't be good if he asked some tricky questions, so he decided to ask a normal one. As far as he was concerned, the most important person to Yutian was naturally Lingshan. For me, the most important person is none other than my instructor during my special training. Chen Yutian looked at Lin Yi with respect, but Lin Yi didn't even look at him. Yutian was disappointed, but he continued. He changed my life, gave me dreams, gave me goals, and made me a great soldier. If possible, I want to be his student forever. Yutian's words confused Jangwon and Tai Zhao. Yutian had changed a lot these few years, but they didn't know who his instructor was. They didn't think much of it. Whether or not he was still pursuing Lingshan had nothing to do with Jangwon and Tai Zhao. Yushu, on the other hand, looked at her brother in shock. She didn't expect her brother, who was obsessed with Lingshan, to say something like this. The most important person to him was actually his instructor. From the looks of it, my brother has really matured a lot, and he also has a new life ideal and goal. But who was his instructor? Was he really that good? Was he as good as Shield Bro? Alright, Shu, it's my turn to ask you. Yutian didn't wait for Jangwon to say anything. He asked Yushu directly, who do you think is better, me or your Shield Bro? Jangwon and Tai Zhao, of course, knew who Shield Bro was. They thought that Yutian was angry when he asked this question. Otherwise, he wouldn't ask this question. If Yushu didn't answer well, Yutian and Lin Yi would probably have a conflict, wouldn't they? Jangwon was gloating. He had a good relationship with Lin Yi on the surface, but that was only because Lin Yi was always by Meng Yao's side, giving him information. In fact, Jangwon hated Lin Yi a lot. He was messed with by Lin Yi twice in this room of Starlight Hotel. How could Jangwon forget that humiliation? If Yutian could beat up Lin Yi for him, Jangwon would be very happy. Yutian was Yushu's brother. Even if he beat up Lin Yi wouldn't dare to fight back because of Meng Yao, right? Haha, then this beating would be for nothing. Lin Yi was really unlucky, but it all depended on Yushu's answer. So, Jangwon waited for Yutian to finish his question and stared at Yushu, waiting for her answer. Oh, I think Shield Bro's a little stronger, right? Yushu wasn't expecting a question like that. Was he still holding a grudge against her for that phone call? But seeing that her brother wasn't showing any hostility towards Lin Yi, Yushu didn't care anymore. Haha, alright Shu, it's your turn to ask Meng Yao. Yutian smiled and didn't say anything else. Jiangwen and Tai Zhao's eyes widened. What the hell was going on? When did Shin Yutian's temper become so good? Then I'll ask. Yushu nodded and looked at Meng Yao. Yao Yao, I'll be the second wife, and you'll be the main wife. Won't you bully me? I don't want to be bullied. Meng Yao didn't know whether to laugh or cry. What kind of question was that? Be a concubine? Did Yushu really take it seriously? Yutian was taken aback as well. His sister's way of thinking was really weird. She wanted to be a concubine? Jiangwen, on the other hand, almost felt his heart explode after hearing Yushu's words. Yushu wasn't bad-looking, and she had a great body, but it'd be a disaster if he married her. He knew Yushu's personality very well. She liked Meng Yao, and if he married Meng Yao, how was he going to live with this buy one free system? Those who didn't know Yushu's personality would think that it was a great deal, but those who knew Yushu's personality would know that she was bringing a troublemaker home. He didn't want to live in the shadow of being messed with every day. In this short dinner, Yushu had messed with him a few times. If he brought her home, how could he live? Chapter 631. It's a tragedy to take a risk. Oh, then it's settled. I'll be a small wife from now on. Yushu said happily. Ahem, Yutian bro. I think there's something wrong with Shu's way of thinking. Jiangwen's heart was about to explode. This was unacceptable. It was a man's dream to have a mistress, but it didn't matter what type of mistress they were. If he married Yushu as well, wouldn't he be screwed to death? Was he going to live or not? Kids always like to mess around. Yutian didn't think much of it. He thought that his sister was joking. After all, it sounded ridiculous. His sister's way of thinking had always been different from others. It was possible that she was lying to Jiangwen. This doesn't seem like fooling around. Jiangwen said earnestly, Yutian bro, you have to guide your sister properly. This is a new era. How can there still be mistresses? This won't do. You have to educate her properly. But Yutian didn't say anything when Yushu spoke up first. This is between me and Yao Yao sis. What does it have to do with you? Jie. Jiangwen didn't know what to say. Yeah, this was someone else's business. Wasn't he being a busybody? If he confessed to Meng Yao and Meng Yao accepted him, then it would have nothing to do with him. But he hadn't confessed yet, had he? All right, it's Sister Yao Yao's turn to ask a question. Yushu glared at Jiangwen impatiently. Yao Yao, it's your turn to ask. Meng Yao didn't know what to ask, but after some thought, she still didn't know what to ask. Can I give this authority to Shu? All right, I'll leave it to Shu then. Jiangwen was in a rush to confess, so there was no reason for him to reject Meng Yao's suggestion. Okay. I love asking questions. Yushu rubbed her hands together, smiling at Tai Zhao. Tai Zhao bro, can I ask a question now? All right, ask away. Tai Zhao nodded as well. He wanted to ask a question that Jiangwen could confess to. He was in a rush as well. Tai Zhao bro, when did you stop wetting your bed? Yushu asked. Wah. Tai Zhao's eyes went wide, not expecting a question like this. It was a funny question, but it was also a sharp one. Su Tai Zhao had a secret, and that was that he had been wetting his bed since he was young. Although not many people knew about this secret, those who were close to him knew a thing or two. It was just that they didn't want to lose face and wouldn't mention it in front of him. When Tai Zhao was in kindergarten, he once peed all over the kid who slept in the lower bunk. From then on, Tai Zhao never stayed at a school or anything like that again. Even now, he didn't dare drink too much water at night because he was afraid of wetting the bed. This secret was an eternal pain in his heart. Tai Zhao didn't know how to answer Yushu's sudden question. Truth or dare meant that you had to tell the truth. Of course, you could lie if you wanted to, as long as you didn't get caught. But Tai Zhao didn't dare live. This was a secret, but there were people who knew about it. He even thought that Yushu was asking this question because she knew about it. If he lied, Yushu would see through him, and that'd be even more embarrassing. Tai Zhao hated it, but there was nothing he could do about it. The reason was simple. Yushu was that kind of person. Even Jiangwen was being tortured by her. What was he? Tai Zhao didn't want to tell the truth. He couldn't tell her that he was still wetting his bed, could he? That'd be too embarrassing. But if he didn't say it, he'd have to choose dare or drink as punishment. Tai Zhao had drunk quite a bit already, and it'd be bad if he drank anymore. He thought about it, and decided to choose dare. I refuse to answer. I choose dare. Oh, that's great. Finally, there's a dare. Yushu clapped her hands in praise. Tai Zhao was even more certain that Yushu was doing this on purpose. She wanted to see if he would take the risk, so she asked this tricky question. In fact, Yushu was just asking randomly. Yutian knew a bit about Tai Zhao's secret, but he wouldn't tell his sister about it. Yushu's question was pure luck. Tai Zhao bro, I order you to drink 2 bottles of red wine. Yushu said after some thought. Wah. Tai Zhao almost jumped out of his chair. 2 bottles of red wine? What kind of joke was this? He didn't choose to drink as punishment because he didn't want to drink anymore, but Yushu was ordering him to drink 2 bottles of red wine? Was she messing with him? But he couldn't go back on his decision since he chose dare. Yushu's request wasn't too much, and it was normal. He couldn't reject it. Tai Zhao was hesitating, and Meng Yao couldn't help but laugh. This Yushu really knew how to play with people. Wasn't she purposely making Tai Zhao regret? Tai Zhao bro, is 2 bottles too little? Why don't you drink 4? Yushu looked at Tai Zhao innocently, as if she wasn't the one who did this. What kind of joke was this? 4 bottles? Tai Zhao was glad that Yushu wanted him to drink 2 bottles. If he drank 4, he'd be dead. All right, hurry up and drink. We'll continue after that. Jiang Wen's mind was on the confession, so he didn't really care if Tai Zhao drank or not. He just wanted the game to continue. Since Jiang Wen said so, Tai Zhao had no choice but to drink 2 bottles of red wine. All right, let's continue. It's my turn to ask a question. And bro, I want to ask you this. Do you have someone in your heart? Of course. Jiang Wen saw that Tai Zhao was finally getting to the main point, and he started talking excitedly. My sweetheart is my childhood sweetheart, Yao Yao. I've been secretly in love with her since I was young, hoping that she'd be my girlfriend when I grow up, and we'll get married and have kids. Oh, then do you want to have sex with Yao Yao, sis? Yushu interrupted suddenly. Of course, Jiang Wen blurted out without thinking, but felt that something wasn't right. Wah. Chapter 632. Sorry, Ming Yao frowned and glared at Jiang Wen in disgust. She turned to Yushu. Shu, don't use those vulgar words. Oh, I'm just making sure. Yushu stuck her tongue out. Yao Yao, don't misunderstand, I. Jiang Wen found it hard to explain. If he denied it and said that he didn't want to do it with her, wouldn't that mean that he didn't like her? How was he supposed to confess then? But it wasn't right to say that he wanted to. Jiang Wen was about to go crazy from anger. This Yushu was a complete mess. Thank goodness he'd listed her as an unwelcome guest from the very beginning. Otherwise, wouldn't his life be shortened if he brought her home? He was pissed to death every day. I'm sorry, Jiang Wen bro. I don't want to do it with you. Yushu said regretfully. What does that have to do with you? Jiang Wen thought. It had nothing to do with her. Even if she wanted to do it with him, he wouldn't dare to do it. But since Yushu changed the topic, it was exactly what Jiang Wen wanted. He could use another topic to ease the awkwardness. Of course it has something to do with me. Yushu nodded seriously. Yao Yao is the main wife, and I'm the second wife. If you want to do it with her, you'll have to do it with the second wife, right? But I don't like you. I won't do it with you. Jiang Wen was speechless. He wanted to yell at her, but he didn't dare to. Yutian frowned as well. He didn't expect his sister to be so bold. It seemed like he had to find a chance to understand his sister's current life. Shu, don't talk nonsense. Ming Yao stopped her. You're a girl. Don't keep saying that word. It's not good. All right, Yao Yao. I won't say anymore. Yushu closed her mouth after saying that. Jiang Wen didn't have any temper at all. He smiled dryly and gave Tai Zhao a look, telling him to continue confessing to Meng Yao in the next round. Yushu ruined it this round, and it was impossible to continue. Brother Yutian, it's my turn to ask you. Jiang Wen wanted to end this round as soon as possible so that Tai Zhao could continue asking him questions. That instructor you're talking about, who is he? I can't say. It's confidential. Yutian knew that he wasn't the star of the show today. He came here because Lingshan rejected him, and he had nowhere else to go. He didn't expect to see Linny here. This was his biggest reward tonight. Although Lin Yi didn't seem to want to talk about the past, it wasn't important. As long as he found Lin Yi's people, he would have more chances to interact with them in the future. Chen Yutian believed that Lin Yi, one of his best students, wouldn't leave him alone. So Yutian wasn't interested in any games. The only reason he stayed here was to sit face to face with Lin Yi. What a thrilling and exciting thing this was. The instructor who used to be unreachable could actually sit at the same table as him today. How glorious was this? If his former teammates knew about this, they'd probably die from jealousy. Jiang Wen and Tai Zhao froze at Yu Tian's words. They thought that it was just a normal topic, and Yu Tian would just say a few words. They didn't expect him to keep it a secret. Was there something special about this instructor's identity? But even if it was special, it had nothing to do with Jiang Wen and Tai Zhao. They didn't dare to be interested. Jiang Wen was getting impatient, but he continued then, Yu Tian bro, do you want to drink as a penalty or dare? I'll drink as a penalty. Yu Tian's alcohol tolerance was quite good, especially after being stationed at the border for the past few years. It was hard to get through the cold winter nights without alcohol, so his alcohol tolerance was much better than before. Yu Tian opened a bottle of red wine and drank it without blinking. He turned to Yu Shu and asked, Shu, do you have a boyfriend? Chen Yutian felt that his sister was getting more and more open-minded. He wanted to test her to see if she had a boyfriend. Oh, I want one too, but Yao Yao sis isn't good enough. She doesn't have a boyfriend, and I can't find one either. Yu Shu said angrily. No? Yu Tian froze. Still, this was good news. It was just that her sister's way of thinking was a little weird. Was she really that close with Meng Yao? Why did she have to be a mistress? No. Yu Shu shook her head. All right, it's my turn to ask. Yao Yao sis, when are you going to find a boyfriend? I don't know. Meng Yao glared at Yu Shu. Don't keep asking weird questions. This is truth or dare. Of course I have to ask weird questions. Yu Shu didn't care. Man, I still want to do 3P. If you don't find a boyfriend, when will it happen? Huh. Not only Jiang Wen and Tai Zhao, but Yu Tian's eyes widened as well. He didn't expect Yu Shu to say something like this. 3P? Jiang Wen's face twitched. It felt good to do 3P, but he didn't have the guts to do it with Yu Shu. He didn't want to die yet. Lin Yi, on the other hand, was used to it. He sat there expressionlessly. Shu, didn't I tell you not to say it? Why are you using such vulgar words? Meng Yao was getting angry. Yao Yao sis, I didn't say that. I said 3P, not asterisk asterisk. Yu Shu argued. It's the same. Don't say it again. Meng Yao humphed. Fine, I'll tell you when I get home. Yu Shu whispered. Not even when you get home. Meng Yao glared at her. She didn't want to continue this topic. All right, you can continue asking Tai Zhao bro questions. Tai Zhao's heart skipped a beat. Yu Shu was still asking questions? No way. But before he could say anything, Yu Shu started the second round of questions. Tai Zhao bro, do you still wet your bed? Yu Shu wasn't stupid. Tai Zhao's rejection of dare made her feel that something was wrong. She thought that Tai Zhao must have wet his bed, so she decided to ask a similar question. You can't do that. I've asked this question before. Tai Zhao jumped up. Chapter 633. Chapter 633. The same question. Yu Tian and Jiang Wen didn't say anything because they knew about Tai Zhao's problem. They just didn't say it out loud. But Jiang Wen felt that Yu Shu's question was a bit sharper. This girl was really hard to deal with. Yu Tian could only smile bitterly. He didn't know if his sister was really just a coincidence, or if she knew something beforehand. This question is different from the previous one. The previous question was, how old did you stop wetting your bed? The question now is, do you still wet your bed? Is it the same? It's obviously not the same, isn't it? Yu Shu explained with her fingers. Isn't it the same? Tai Zhao felt a headache coming on. Tai Zhao bro, you said it yourself. It's not the same. Not the same. You can answer now. Yu Shu said. Tai Zhao didn't think that he'd fall into Yu Shu's trap again. He smiled bitterly, not daring to choose dare this time. He picked up a bottle of red wine. I'll drink this as punishment. I refuse to answer. After finishing the wine, Tai Zhao took a few deep breaths and recovered a bit. Seeing that Jiang Wen was getting impatient, he quickly asked, And bro, it's my turn now. I want to ask you, what does your ideal girlfriend look like? Ideal girlfriend? Jiang Wen saw that it was time for him to show off again. He couldn't fall for Yushu's tricks again. He couldn't just answer her sneaky questions like that. He must finish his confession in one breath. My ideal girlfriend, she must have beautiful long hair. Height must be about 165 meters tall, slightly thin, pure and beautiful and just like you and Yao Yao. All right, Jiang Wen bro, it's your turn to ask my bro. I've already prepared a new question for Yao Yao. Hurry up. Yushu interrupted Jiang Wen before he could say anything. Wait, I'm not done yet. Jiang Wen was panicking. Yushu again? Why was she so annoying? You're done? Taizao bro asked you what your ideal girlfriend looks like, and you've already answered, just like Yao Yao sis. Yushu said. See, you're done. I'm not done yet. I haven't explained the rest yet. Jiang Wen was pissed. Do you still need to explain? Then hurry up and explain. Yushu was a little impatient and said dully, Where was I? Jiang Wen asked, forgetting his lines after being interrupted by Yushu. You said that you want to find a girlfriend, just like Yao Yao sis. Yushu said, All right, Jiang Wen bro. I hope you can find a girlfriend like Yao Yao sis. Do you have anything else to say? Wah. Jiang Wen froze. Find a similar one? I'm looking for Meng Yao. What's the point of looking for someone like her? So he hurriedly said, I mean, I want to find Yao Yao. That won't do. Yao Yao already has someone she likes, and I don't like you. Yushu waved her hand. All right, let's move on to the next round. Jiang Wen was so pissed off that his nose was crooked. Was this Yushu sent by the heavens to go against him? Although he didn't finish his sentence, Jiang Wen couldn't continue with Yushu's interference. All right, let's move on to the next round. Yutian bro, do you still want to marry Lingshan? I'm not thinking about it anymore. Haha, I feel like the gap is getting bigger and bigger, and the hope is getting smaller and smaller. Yutian didn't avoid this question. He shook his head and said faintly. Yutian finished answering this question, and now it was Yutian's turn to ask Yushu. Yutian thought about what he should ask his sister. He had asked everything he needed to ask. His sister didn't have a boyfriend yet, so she was probably still pretending to get a room. She was still as dumb as before. Right, when you were young, you buried a metal box with Yao Yao in the yard. What's the secret in it? Yutian asked his sister curiously, but she blushed and refused to answer. Meng Yao also avoided answering this question on purpose. After a period of time, Yutian was very curious about the secret in the box, but he couldn't get an answer. After that, he joined the special training team and grew up, becoming an armed police soldier stationed at the border. That box, it's actually nothing much. It's just a vow between me and Yao Yao sis. Yushu didn't feel embarrassed anymore. After all these years, Yushu's personality had formed. She was always this kind of dumb person. Great intelligence looks dumb, and she would never pay for it. Vow? What vow? Yutian asked. Jiang Wen, on the other hand, had his eyes wide open, waiting for Yushu's answer. He wasn't interested in other people's business, but Yushu said that it involved Meng Yao's vow. He was very interested in anything related to Meng Yao. Our vow was that Yao Yao sis and I will marry the same man. Yao Yao sis will be the big wife, and I will be the small wife. Yushu said proudly. Shu, don't talk nonsense. Meng Yao blushed. What kind of vow was this? She didn't know why she agreed to it in the first place. She thought that she didn't want to be separated from Shu in the future, and that they could be together forever. But now that she grew up, she realized how childish she was back then. Was such a thing really possible? Could Shu really marry the same man as her? Even if she agreed, wouldn't it scare her future boyfriend? Meng Yao didn't know what to ask, but an image appeared in her mind. Lin Yi? Why did she think of him? It'd be quite a good match if Shu married him. He was probably the only one who could handle Yushu's antics. They'd been living under the same roof for so long, and he didn't seem to be sick of Yushu at all. Yutian didn't expect his sister to make such a vow at such a young age. Could it be that what she said about the big wife and small wife was true? Was she really going to marry the same man as Meng Yao? Isn't this a little too inconceivable? This wasn't in line with House Chen's interests. How could the daughter of House Chen be someone's small wife? How could Grandpa agree? Of course, if that man was very powerful and was the target of competition from the noble houses, then it was possible. But this kind of person was too rare. Even if there was one, would he be able to stand his sister? If he didn't enjoy the tenderness of a small wife, he would be tricked to death by the small wife. Chapter 634. Chapter 634. Kiss Shield Bro. Yutian was confused about Lin Yi's sudden appearance as Mingyao and Yushu's follower. He didn't know why. Was it someone else's arrangement? Someone purposely arranged for them to be together? Was it for Mingyao or Yushu? From a personal point of view, Yutian naturally hoped that his instructor and his sister could be together. That way, not only could he get closer to Lin Yi, but it would also benefit Haoschen. Lin Yi was already at the peak of the middle phase of the golden class, and he was about to break through to the late phase of the golden class. Now, he was probably at the late phase of the golden class. At least, Yutian couldn't see through Lin Yi's true strength. Lin Yi's strength was like a phoenix's feather among the young generation of the noble houses. It wasn't impossible for his sister to marry him. Jiangwen, on the other hand, had a bigger headache. He didn't expect Yushu and Mingyao to agree to marry the same man when they were young. Wasn't this making things difficult for him? It seemed like he had to think of a way to expose Yushu and Mingyao. This was something he had to do. Otherwise, pursuing Mingyao would become an impossible mission. Let Yushu be a small wife? Jiangwen didn't dare to. First, he couldn't take it. He only had one heart. Even if he was the boss of an organ trafficking organization, if his heart exploded, he wouldn't be able to find a replacement. Even if he could find one, it would be long dead. Second, with Yushu's background and identity, he wouldn't be able to take it. Haoschen aside, even Yutian wouldn't agree. Yushu's man in the future would either be a noble house's heir or a master. All right, it's my turn. Yushu didn't care what the others were thinking. She quickly said to Mingyao, Yao sis, it's finally my turn to ask you. I'm going to ask. Who was your first kiss? La 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 ha ha ha. Yushu couldn't help but laugh mischievously after asking the question. First kiss? Mingyao frowned. She suddenly thought of Lin Yi. One look at Yushu's sneaky smile, and Mingyao knew that Yushu was up to no good. Mingyao didn't want to answer, but she didn't want to drink either. She had drunk quite a lot earlier, and her head was still a little dizzy. I refused to answer. I choose dare. Okay. Yao, you're the second one to choose dare. I'm going to start. Yushu said excitedly. Yao, I order you to kiss Shield Bro! Exclamation point. Mingyao glared at Yushu. I'm not going. Go ahead. You've already given your first kiss to Shield Bro anyway. Another one won't be a big deal. Yushu said matter-of-factly. Shoo. Mingyao was pissed as she glared at Yushu. Are you done? You've gone too far. Oh, I don't think it's anything. Shield Bro kissed me too. I think it's normal. Yushu said. Jiangwen, who was sitting on the opposite side, frowned. Mengyao's first kiss was Lin Yi? Was it real? But looking at Mengyao's expression, she seemed to have admitted it. She didn't refute and only asked Shu if she was done. She even said that Shu was going too far. Thinking back to Yushu's question, asking who Mengyao's first kiss was, Mingyao had rejected the question instead of saying no. This meant that Mingyao must have had her first kiss before, and she just didn't want to answer the question. Otherwise, she would have just said no. How straightforward would that be? Could it be that Mingyao and Lin Yi really had something going on? Jiangwen's face turned ugly. Then, he heard Yushu say that her first kiss was with Lin Yi as well. Could it be that the three of them lived under the same roof? Did something really happen? Jiangwen wanted to flip the table. He had reached a certain level of anger at this point. This Lin Yi stole what he was supposed to do and played him like a monkey. He said that he was giving him information, but the truth was that he was stealing from the young miss in the house. Jiangwen had the urge to kill Lin Yi. Chun Yutian was surprised as well. Lin Yi kissed his sister? He even kissed Mingyao? What was the relationship between the three of them? Was Lin Yi still a follower? Although Yutian was confused, he didn't think there was anything wrong with it. It was impossible for Pengzhan to not know that Lin Yi was by Mengyao's side. Since Pengzhan didn't say anything, could there be something else going on? In fact, if his sister could marry Lin Yi, Chun Yutian wouldn't object. Instead, he would be happy. This was what he wanted. But now, Mingyao was added into the mix. As long as his sister was willing, Chun Yutian wouldn't say anything. All right, Shu, stop joking. Lin Yi saw that Mingyao was about to go berserk, and so he spoke up to help her out. This game is for you guys to play. I'm just a bystander. So Dare has nothing to do with me. Why don't you give Yao Yao a different type of adventure? All right, let's call it a day. Jiangwen couldn't hold it in anymore. He wanted to kill Linny right now, but he didn't show it because of Qin Yutian and Tai Zhao. Still, he wouldn't eat at the same table with Linny anymore. With that, Jiangwen stood up and left the room without looking back. Tai Zhao glanced at Qin Yutian but didn't say anything. He followed Jiangwen out. Qin Yutian sneered. The friendship between the four young masters of Songshan would be gone after today's dinner. What was left was Jiangwen and Tai Zhao's personal friendship. Qin Yutian still had things to do at night. He wanted to go back to the villa with Yushu and ask about Lin Yi, but he was afraid that Lin Yi would be unhappy. He thought about it and decided to let nature take its course. Since Lin Yi had become his sister's and Yao Yao's follower, there was no rush. At the entrance of the hotel, Qin Yutian parted ways with Yushu and Meng Yao. Before he left, he looked at Lin Yi with respect, but Lin Yi didn't even look at him. Instead, he acted like a follower, driving Meng Yao's Audi S5 over and waiting for them to get in. Qin Yutian had no choice. He waved at Yushu and left after telling her to take care of herself. He wanted to remind Lin Yi to be careful of Jiangwen. Jiangwen wasn't a generous person, and today's events made him lose face. He would definitely take revenge. But thinking about Lin Yi's strength and skills, his reminder was unnecessary. Qin Yutian shook his head and left. Chapter 635. Lingshan caught Shu. Did you drink too much today? You went a little overboard with your words. Meng Yao said to Yushu. I don't like Jiangwen, but your brother was there too. It's not good if we end up breaking up on bad terms. Oh, I didn't drink too much. Yushu shook her head. I was just thinking that Yao Yao was a little unhappy today, so I wanted to cheer you up a little. Meng Yao froze. She didn't think that Yushu's prank today was just to make her happy. She couldn't help but feel a surge of warmth in her heart. She hugged Yushu, feeling touched. Shu, thank you. Oh, it's nothing. Yushu shook her head. Yao Yao was unhappy, so of course I wanted to cheer you up. And Shu, you're so good to me. Meng Yao was really touched. Then you have to let me be your small wife from now on. Yushu said. Ha, sure. We'll be together forever. Good sisters forever. Meng Yao nodded. This was the first time she answered Yushu's retarded question. Lin Yi was driving in the front, as if he didn't hear the conversation between the sisters. In fact, Lin Yi did hear it, but he didn't know what to say. He didn't know how to persuade the sisters. When they got back to the villa, Meng Yao and Yushu held hands and went upstairs to talk, leaving Lin Yi alone at the bottom of the stairs. After a meeting, Lingshan decided to go undercover and infiltrate the criminal organization, wiping them out in one fell swoop. Otherwise, it wouldn't help the case at all if they only captured some small fries. This method of capturing people was called a UFO. A UFO, as the name suggested, was an unidentified flying object. Even if they captured the person, they wouldn't know what was behind them, just like how humans didn't know about UFOs. Lingshan, on the other hand, decided to take the risk herself. She was the captain, after all, and this case was her responsibility. If she didn't go, someone else would, and she, as the captain, wouldn't feel at ease if someone else went. After all, Lingshan was the strongest person in the team, and she was the only one who could lessen the danger to the greatest extent and make this plan a success. Many of the captains didn't want Lingshan to take the risk, but since Lingshan had made her decision, there was nothing they could do. They could only cover for her. And so, Lingshan disguised herself as a village woman in Bing Village, looking like a village woman rushing through the night. Biaozi, there's a village woman walking at night. Should we take action? Behind a haystack, two burly men were talking in a low voice. I think it's okay. The higher-ups have given us a task. We must bring someone back today. After waiting for so long, a person finally came. I think it's her. The macho man named Biaozi nodded. Brother Ma, wait for her to come, and then we'll take action. Brother Ma nodded. If we don't fight, how can we afford to drink and play with women? Damn, it's her. Lingshan had already sensed that something was wrong. The professional sensitivity of the captain and the sharp insight of a golden class master had already let her know that there were two enemies hiding not far away. But Ling Shan's purpose this time was to be captured by these people, and then sneak into their headquarters, find their nest, and wipe out their organization. Ling Shan wanted to pretend to be a person who was captured and sent to the headquarters of the criminal organization. Then, before the kidney was cut, she would go on a rampage and wipe out the entire nest. Do it. Brother Ma waved his hand and said to Biaozi. Suddenly, two men jumped out from behind the haystack, one on the left and one on the right, holding Ling Shan down. What are you doing? Help! Ling Shan screamed. Brother Ma and Biaozi looked at each other and smiled. In this wilderness, even if they used a megaphone, no one would be able to hear them. Although they were operating in Bing Village, they didn't dare to capture people in a crowded place. If the villagers were alarmed, how could the two of them fight against a large group of people? So, for the sake of safety, they chose a less populated path in the field. Although it was quiet here, there was a disadvantage. There were almost no people at night, unless there were people rushing at night. The two of them just wanted to try their luck here in the first half of the night to see if they could wait for people to pass by. If it didn't work, they would wait for the second half of the night to break into the houses to capture people. Although it was more dangerous, at least it would be the second half of the night, and it wouldn't alarm most people. But they didn't expect that after waiting for a few hours, a village woman walking alone at night came. This was a rare opportunity. They didn't care whether Ling Shan would call for help or not. They directly punched Ling Shan's neck and knocked her out. In fact, Ling Shan didn't faint. She was just pretending to faint. If a golden class master could be knocked out so easily, then the golden class master would be too weak. Ling Shan was dragged into a van by the two men, and the van started up quickly, heading towards the city. After about half an hour, Ling Shan was sent to another abandoned factory in the outskirts of the city. They still didn't enter the city, but this place was completely different from the last one. Ling Shan knew that this was just a temporary transfer station. It wasn't the headquarters of the criminal organization. She was just temporarily kept here. The two men were only in charge of capturing people. There should be another group of people in charge of sending her to the surgery place. That should be their headquarters. In the abandoned factory, Ling Shan was thrown into a basement, and the two men happily went to collect the money. The one in charge of watching over her was a man with a gloomy face. He had an aquiline nose and deep eye sockets. He looked like a heavy smoker. The man with the aquiline nose looked at Ling Shan carefully. He was stunned. He didn't think that a village woman could be so beautiful. It was completely unexpected. Plus, she didn't look old. She shouldn't be married yet. The man with the aquiline nose smacked his lips. He was a little envious, but he still dialed a number after some hesitation. "Tattooed bro, we caught a fat sheep," the man with the aquiline nose said softly, afraid that he would wake Ling Shan up. But he didn't know that Ling Shan was awake the whole time. Chapter 636. You brought her here? Of course, tattooed bro. I've already sent them to look for a new target, the man with the aquiline nose said carefully. In fact, he knew very well that the two guys went to drink after taking the money. Finding one target in one night was already good enough. How could they go back to look for a second one? So he quickly said, "Right, tattooed bro, the fat sheep is a girl, very pretty. Maybe she's even a virgin. You can enjoy her first?" "Oh, really? I got it." The tattooed guy didn't show anything on his face, only saying faintly. The man with the aquiline nose didn't know that the tattooed guy had a boss above him. He thought that the tattooed guy was the boss, so he offered Ling Shan to him. After hanging up, the tattooed guy quickly walked to Jiang Wen's side. "When bro, the people down there caught a girl. I heard she's not bad. Maybe she's still a virgin. Do you think you should?" "Oh?" Jiang Wen raised his eyebrows. He was extremely pissed off right now, and other than venting his anger, he couldn't find a way to vent it out. When he heard that the people down there had caught a girl, he was immediately interested. "Let me see her?" Although the people down there weren't that high up in the hierarchy, they still received quite a lot of money after doing their jobs. They were allowed to go to high-class nightclubs, and it wasn't like they hadn't seen pretty girls before. If they were called pretty girls, and they even dared to call Jiang Wen, then they must be pretty girls. Jiang Wen was just worried that he didn't have a place to vent his anger, and now someone had delivered themselves to his doorstep. Jiang Wen was very happy. The tattooed guy sent a car to the Aquiline Nose Guy's transfer station, and very quickly, Lingshan was brought to the headquarters and locked up in their own prison. She was indeed very pretty. This was the tattooed guy's first impression of Lingshan. Not only was her face beautiful, but her body was also very hot, with curves in all the right places and curves in all the right places. She must be one of the best. According to the tattooed guy's many years of experience, this girl in front of him should be a virgin. This was in line with Wenbro's standards for women. But other than that, the tattooed man felt that Lingshan looked very familiar, as if he had seen her somewhere before, but he couldn't remember where. After locking Lingshan up, the tattooed guy returned to Jiangwen's side and said in a low voice, "Wenbro, I've sent her here. She's indeed a top-quality product, but she looks a little familiar. Where have I seen her before?" He was a cautious man, and he wouldn't let go of any details. Otherwise, he wouldn't have been in charge of this place for so long. When Jiangwen's brother was here, the tattooed man was the person in charge of this place. "Where have I seen it before?" "What do you mean?" Jiangwen frowned. "Someone you know?" "I don't think I know him. I have an impression of him, but I don't know where I have seen him before. Even if I know him, he shouldn't be an acquaintance." The tattooed man shook his head. "I'm not a local. It's impossible for me to have relatives in Tong Village." "I see." Jiangwen hesitated. "Turn on the surveillance. I'll take a look myself." "Yes." "Wenbro." The tattooed guy nodded and turned on the surveillance camera in the dungeon. There was a surveillance camera in Jiangwen's room, so he could see everything that was happening in the dungeon clearly. Lingshan didn't wake up after reaching the dungeon. She was still pretending to be unconscious. In fact, she had already sneaked a peek. There were a few surveillance cameras in the dungeon. Whatever she was doing here could be seen by the people outside. So, in order to confuse the enemy, Lingshan still pretended to be unconscious. This should be the headquarters of the kidney trafficking organization, right? She wondered if Lu Wangli and the others outside received the signal. Not good. The tracking device on Captain Song has lost its signal. Lu Wangli stared at the surveillance screen nervously and exclaimed. Before Lingshan left, she had brought a signal transmitter with her. In other words, wherever Lingshan was, the tracking device would be able to see it. This would make it easier for them to destroy the enemy's lair. However, after Lingshan was brought to the first transfer station, the signal was lost. Could it be that something happened in the middle of this? Lu Wangli's face was filled with nervousness, and so were the others around him. They all stared at the screen nervously. The tattooed man wasn't an idiot. He had been doing this for so long and nothing had happened. Of course, he had his own methods. He was afraid that the police would send someone to sneak in, so he brought a signal transmitter with him. So, he had already blocked the signal on the car that was used to pick up Lingshan. It was the same for the entire headquarters. Other than the special wired network phone, there was no signal on the phone. Of course, Jiangwen's own phone had been transferred through the call forwarding system, so he could still receive the signal. The surveillance screen was turned on, and the focus of the camera was getting closer and closer. Jiangwen finally saw Lingshan's face clearly. He couldn't help but curse, "Fuck. What's wrong, Wenbro?" The tattooed man was stunned by Jiangwen's reaction. He didn't know why Jiangwen had such a big reaction. "Wenbro, do you know her?" "Why not?" "Lingshan, the captain of Songshan's criminal investigation team." Jiangwen's eyes widened. "Chen Yutian's target. Why did you bring her here?" It can't be. You brought the captain of the criminal investigation team here?" The tattooed man was dumbfounded. He didn't know why this person looked so familiar. So she was the captain of the criminal investigation team. This was a character that often appeared on TV. He should have seen her before, but he didn't pay much attention to her since she took over Huaijuan's position not long ago. However, this matter was getting out of hand. It wasn't going to end well. He didn't know how Wenbro would treat him. He wouldn't kill him, would he? The tattooed man was shocked at the thought. He had experienced Jiangwen's cruelty before. Although Jiangwen looked gentle, the tattooed man knew that he was a ruthless person. Jiangwen's brother used to buy a kidney, and Jiangwen used to rob him. To deal with his love rival, he would cut off one of his kidneys. How could a normal person do something like this? The tattooed man was shocked. Jiangwen wouldn't kill him to vent his anger, would he? Jiangwen was in a bad mood today. He wanted to please him by getting a pretty girl for him to play with, but he didn't expect that he would end up in trouble. He brought the captain of the criminal investigation team here. Wasn't he looking for death? Chapter 637. Give them a warning. Jiangwen waved his hand, a faint smile on his face. So what if they want to? When bro, are you saying that you want to have a taste of her? The tattooed guy thought that when bro was quite brave, daring to touch a police beauty? Of course not, Jiangwen said. She knows me. I don't want to die yet. Plus, she's Chen Yutian's woman. Why would I touch her? Then what about you, when bro? The tattooed guy was confused. Haven't the police been keeping an eye on us? That's good. Since they're keeping an eye on us, we'll teach them a lesson and let them know that it's better to turn a blind eye to some things. Jiangwen smiled coldly. What do you think the police will do if the captain of the criminal investigation department loses a kidney? That would be so embarrassing. The tattooed guy laughed. That's right. I want to teach the police a lesson, a warning at the same time. Let them know that they can't meddle in everything, that it's better for them to live in peace. Otherwise, the consequences will be dire. Jiangwen said, put some drugs in the prison and knock her out. Oh. The tattooed guy was surprised. Knock her out? From what I know, this Lingshan is a golden class master. None of us are her match yet, Jiangwen said. This girl must be trying to sneak into the headquarters. That's why she's been hiding her strength. Let's fulfill her wish and let her hide until she loses a kidney. Okay, I understand. The tattooed guy nodded quickly, thinking that Jiangwen was indeed cruel. He was willing to cut off a kidney for such a beautiful girl. Plus, this girl's identity wasn't simple at all. Wait, tell the people in the outskirts to evacuate. Tomorrow, we'll use the third stronghold. We'll give up on this one. Jiangwen called out to the tattooed guy who was about to leave. Lingshan should have a signal transmitter on her. That stronghold should be exposed already. Yes, the tattooed guy replied and left. Jiangwen shook his head slightly as he watched the tattooed man leave. Yutian bro, I'm really sorry. It's your fault for choosing such a troublesome girl. If she had obediently followed you back to the Qin family, how could she have lost a kidney? But Lingshan was just a small interlude. He didn't care at all. Cutting out Lingshan's kidney would only bring two results. One was for the police to give up, and the other was for them to be furious. However, so what if he flew into a rage out of humiliation? They still couldn't find where their headquarters was, and Lingshan had reached the point where she couldn't take it anymore. That was why she decided to pretend to be captured and sneak into the headquarters. Jiangwen didn't mind at all. He was a ruthless man, and he didn't care about things like that. What troubled Jiangwen now was Lin Yi's problem. Jiangwen was very annoyed. Lin Yi, this bastard. How dare he get involved with Ming Yao and Yushu? Jiangwen didn't think that the relationship between Lin Yi and Ming Yao could be that pure. They even kissed. What else couldn't they do? Ming Yao was his wife, and he would never allow Ming Yao and Lin Yi to be together. Jiangwen's feelings for Ming Yao came from the bottom of his heart, and it was almost perverted. This was his dream since he was young, and that was to marry Ming Yao. Jiangwen had played with many women these years, and there were beautiful ones, both foreign and domestic, but he still couldn't forget about Ming Yao. This was a stubbornness in his character. Even if Ming Yao and Lin Yi had already done something, he would still bring Ming Yao home. Even if he had to put her there every day, he would make her his. Of course, if Ming Yao was still a virgin, Jiangwen would let bygones be bygones. Lin Yi, how do you want to die? A cold smile appeared on Jiangwen's lips. This was the smile he had every time he was about to do something bad. Since you don't know what's good for you, then don't blame me for what I'm about to do. Your kidney is mine now. When Lingshan's signal disappeared, Lu Wangli and the others felt that something was wrong. Without hesitation, they sent people to where Lingshan's signal disappeared. It was a deserted area, and there was an abandoned factory not far from the empty road. But when Lu Wangli and the others surrounded the factory, they found nothing. There was no one in the factory, but the people inside had left in a hurry, and it wouldn't have been long either. The light bulb was still warm, which meant that it had been lit the whole time. There were also some instant noodle bags and other food waste on the ground, as well as some ragged ropes. Evidently, the enemy had their guard up. But it was precisely because of this that Lu Wangli was even more worried. This meant that the enemy must have seen through Lingshan's identity and fled in a panic, and the signal transmitter on Lingshan must have been destroyed as well. With that thought, Lu Wangli started to panic. He hesitated for a while before calling the director, Yang Huaijuan. Director Yang, I'm Lu Wangli from the Criminal Investigation Team. Are you asleep? It was already midnight, and Lu Wangli was afraid that Huaijuan was already asleep. I just slept. What's up? Ever since Huaijuan took the medicine that Linny had given him, his internal injuries had healed. He didn't feel any pain anymore, and he could sleep peacefully without the need for painkillers. He didn't feel any discomfort when he was woken up by the phone. Director Yang, Captain Song seems to be in trouble, Lu Wangli said carefully. Trouble? What happened? Tell me the details. Huaijuan's sleepiness was all gone when he heard that Lingshan was in trouble. He sat up and asked. It's like this. Captain Song found out the location of the criminal organization. So, Lu Wangli told Huaijuan about Lingshan's undercover work. Who told her to go? Why didn't she ask for permission first? Huaijuan was furious after hearing Lu Wangli's words. It was Captain Song's decision. I thought she'd asked for permission already. Lu Wangli sweated. He was the captain, and it was Lingshan who reported this to Huaijuan. He couldn't just skip his rank and report to Huaijuan, could he? Chapter 638. Huaijuan washed his face and rushed to the police station. Huaijuan hung up, washed his face and rushed to the police station. But Huaijuan wouldn't be of much use even if he went. Even if he knew that Lingshan had lost contact with them at the transit station, it wouldn't change anything. The people at the transit station had already left, and there wouldn't be any valuable clues left. The criminals were cunning, and they didn't leave any openings. Lingshan was lost just like that. Huaijuan couldn't do anything even if he was worried. All they could do now was wait for the criminals to talk to the police. They obviously knew about Lingshan's identity already, and yet they still wanted to capture her. Their goal was obvious. They either wanted to show off to the police, or they wanted to use her as a hostage to achieve their goal. But no matter what, he had to wait for the criminals to contact the police first. This Song, he's really troublesome. Huaijuan rubbed his sleepy eyes as he sat in his office. He hadn't slept for the whole night, discussing the direction of the case. He was tired, but it was much better than before. Lin Yi's medicine was still effective. In the past, staying up all night would cause him to get sick, and he had to use medicine to suppress it. But now, other than fatigue, he didn't feel any discomfort. Of course, fatigue was a normal reaction. Even a healthy person would feel uncomfortable after a night of no rest. Lin Yi? Huaijuan suddenly thought of Lin Yi. Did Lin Yi have a way? If there was a way to find Lingshan, then perhaps only Lin Yi could do it? She just didn't know if he would help. Huaijuan smiled bitterly. It seemed like he still had to trouble Lin Yi. After some hesitation, Huaijuan dialed Lin Yi's number. Huaijuan always felt awkward calling Lin Yi that. He still wanted to call Lin Yi Eagle or Captain. He wasn't used to the name Yi. Junbro, what's up? Lin Yi drove to the hospital to pick up Tang Yun. He received a call from Huaijuan just as he was about to drive off. Song was probably captured by the kidney trafficking organization. Huaijuan didn't bother with pleasantries as he told Huaijuan the reason for the call. Oh, it's normal for a girl like her to be captured. Lin Yi wasn't surprised at all. In fact, he thought that it was normal. He wouldn't have called her yesterday if he knew she was that reckless. She's a little reckless, but young people are all impulsive. Huaijuan smiled bitterly. It's like this. Song received a tip yesterday and found out where the criminals were and, oh, I know that. I was the one who told her about Bin Village. Lin Yi interrupted Huaijuan's words. Did she go there herself and was caught trying to infiltrate the enemy lines and couldn't get out after that? Huaijuan was surprised. He didn't know that. Huaijuan was a bit surprised. He didn't think that Lin Yi was the one who'd told Lingshan about this. It seemed like they were still in contact and pretty close, too. Lin Yi wouldn't abandon Lingshan then, would he? Very simple logic. Lin Yi smiled. With Lingshan's personality, this wasn't surprising at all. What do you need from me? Can you find her or save her? Huaijuan asked directly. No need for hypocritical pleasantries between Lin Yi and Huaijuan. I'll try. Lin Yi was getting a headache. This Lingshan really knew how to cause trouble. He was going to be busy. Lin Yi didn't want to get involved in this at first, but since Huaijuan had spoken up, Lin Yi had no reason to refuse. Thank you, Eagle. Huaijuan sighed in relief. Lin Yi wasn't one to make promises easily, but once he did, he'd do his best to keep it. Oh, I'll hang up first. I'll think about what to do. Lin Yi didn't say anything and hung up the phone. If he wanted to find Lingshan, he'd have to help Jiang Wen. It seemed like he really did have to go look for Jiang Wen. Whether or not he cut someone else's kidney had nothing to do with Lin Yi. Even if Lin Yi knew about it, he wouldn't do it. But now that it was related to Lingshan, and Lin Yi didn't like this Jiang Wen, he could see that the miss was annoyed with him, so he'd have to take care of him. What's wrong? Are you okay? Tang Yuan heard the gist of it, but she couldn't hear it clearly, so she asked worriedly. It's nothing. A friend went missing and asked me to help look for her. Lin Yi said, let's ignore her for now. Let me take a look at your head. It's almost healed. Tang Yuan was a little shy, avoiding Lin Yi's gaze. She lowered her head, not daring to look at him. Oh, not bad. There aren't any scars left. Otherwise, it wouldn't look good in the future. Lin Yi was satisfied with his medicine. If there's a scar, will you still want me? Tang Yuan really wanted to know the answer. Your worry is unnecessary. It can be removed even if you keep it, Lin Yi said. Oh, Tang Yuan was a little disappointed. She didn't hear the answer she wanted. She didn't know why Lin Yi liked her. Was it because of her looks or something else? It was a very uneasy feeling. But Lin Yi didn't understand girls and didn't notice Tang Yuan's disappointment. Right. How's the relocation of the slums going? Lin Yi asked. It's temporarily stopped. I heard from Lu Xinwen that there's no news. A lot of people are waiting and watching. Tang Yuan couldn't help but find it funny. They all think that the Qibing skyscraper collapsed because of quality problems. So, they won't even move now. Let's not care about them for now. Lin Yi wasn't too interested in whether Zhao Qibing would demolish the buildings or not. However, he could look for him and ask for some compensation. Why don't you go to school with your employer? Tang Yuan was still very vigilant towards Meng Yao and Yushu. There are people who pick them up. Lin Yi shrugged. Oh, when do you want to stay? Tang Yuan asked. I'm not sure. It depends on my old man. Lin Yi shook his head. You seem to be very hostile towards them? I'm not. Tang Yuan didn't admit it. When they arrived at school, Lin Yi and Tang Yuan separated in front of the classroom. Everyone in the school knew about their relationship. Tang Yuan didn't need to avoid them. Plus, with Meng Yao and Yushu's sudden addition, Tang Yuan was on high alert. Chapter 639. Chapter 639. Tang Yun's sense of danger. If Meng Yao didn't like Lin Yi, why would she ruin her own reputation? She was a girl from a respectable family. How could she not care? There was only one possibility. She really did like Lin Yi. That's why she said those things. Especially when Meng Yao whispered something in Tang Yun's ear before she left. It made Tang Yun even more vigilant. She said that she wanted to pursue Lin Yi. Tang Yun didn't know how she should fight with Meng Yao, and she didn't know if she should fight or not. It all depended on Lin Yi's attitude. If Lin Yi didn't like Meng Yao, then Tang Yun wouldn't be worried, but Lin Yi's attitude was a bit ambiguous. He probably had feelings for Meng Yao and Yushu. This was the source of danger for Tang Yun. They lived under the same roof, and it was inevitable that feelings would grow. Now, she could only take it one step at a time. Lin Yi came to the classroom and looked at his empty desk. He suddenly thought of Xiao Xiao. He hadn't seen her in a while. It had been so many days since he came back from Yinjing, and Xiao Xiao still hadn't come back. Was she still in Yinjing? Lin Yi wanted to send a text to greet her. After all, their relationship had improved a bit, and it wasn't as tense as before. But thinking about Xiao Xiao's personality, he put down his phone. She was the type of person who'd go with the flow. Who knew what she would do if he took the initiative to contact her? Lin Yi was thinking about Xiao Xiao when Xiao Xiao's text came. Lin Yi, why haven't you contacted me in so long? Do you not have me in your heart? Lin Yi didn't know whether to laugh or cry as he looked at the message. He didn't know how to reply. Busy. When are you coming back? Xiao Xiao was sitting on the hospital bed, bored out of her mind. Tianlong had returned and was by her side. Xiao Xiao, you're texting a friend? Tianlong was surprised to see his daughter's message. Because Feng Tianlong knew that his daughter didn't have many friends, almost none of whom she could contact through text messages. That was because other than her friends who raced with her, she had no real friends. Oh, it's Lin Yi. You've met him before. Xiao Xiao didn't hide it. Lin Yi. Tianlong's eyes lit up. Are you close with him? It's all right. Xiao Xiao was a little annoyed at how Lin Yi was changing the topic. Busy? Busy with what? Was he busy dating Tang Yin or being Meng Yao and Yushu's follower? He's really not your boyfriend? Tianlong suddenly asked. Xiao Xiao's heart skipped a beat as her face heated up. Had her father noticed something? Her father had asked a similar question before, but Xiao Xiao had denied it. Why was he bringing it up again today? But Xiao Xiao remembered her body's condition and decided to go all out. Not yet for now. Not yet? Tianlong's heart skipped a beat. Trying to date? I'm going after him. Xiao Xiao never had a good relationship with her father, and she never had the image of a good girl. She'd never had a boyfriend before, but when it came to this topic, she was a little shy at first, but after a while, she was more open about it. I wish you success. Tianlong wanted his daughter to find a boyfriend. Even if they didn't get married, they should at least have a child first. He didn't want to lose his daughter and die alone. Having a grandson or granddaughter would be something to rely on, and Lin Yi was someone he liked, so he approved of Xiao Xiao going out with him. It's not success yet. It's not even set in stone yet. Maybe I'll die before I even catch up. Xiao Xiao wasn't worried about life and death anymore. We've wasted so many days of our time again. We could have used that time to come to the hospital every day. The final result isn't out yet, is it? Maybe there's a way. Feng Tianlong didn't have much confidence when he said this. In fact, he already predicted that the result this time would be the same as every other time. But he didn't want to give up until there was a final conclusion. So boring. Xiao Xiao fell back on the bed and continued texting Lin Yi. Lin Yi replied a couple of messages to Xiao Xiao, and it was time for class. He closed his phone and put it in his desk. Xiao Xiao's messages, on the other hand, were like a stone thrown into the ocean. Xiao Xiao was very pissed off. Lin Yi, you're too lazy to even text me, huh? Yao sis, according to my observation, Shield Bro came with Tang Yun today. Yushu used her spy skills again. Oh, Meng Yao replied faintly. What does that have to do with us? Don't mind him. But aren't you going after Shield Bro? You've already challenged Tang Yun. If we don't do anything, Tang Yun might think we're scared and give up. Yushu provoked. Let her think what she wants. Meng Yao wouldn't fall for it. She knew that only Pinliang and Jiangwen would fall for Yushu's tricks. Oh, Yushu was a little dejected. Yao Yao wouldn't budge no matter what she said, so she could only give up. Meng Yao had been paying attention in class, but Yushu's words messed up her mind. She rejected Yushu's suggestion, but her heart couldn't calm down at all. Meng Yao didn't even realize it until the end of class, still staring at the textbook in front of her. Yao Yao. Yushu waved her hand in front of Meng Yao. What? Meng Yao said, startled. She snapped back to reality and glared at Yushu. Are you trying to scare me to death? Yao Yao, are you in love? Yushu looked at Meng Yao curiously. What love? What are you talking about? Meng Yao's heart tightened as she looked at Yushu fiercely. The TV says that when women are in a daze, it means that they're in love. Just like you, Yao Yao, Yushu said. You believe whatever the TV says? Why don't you believe in TV shopping? Meng Yao, naturally, wouldn't admit that she was in love. She didn't think she'd die from it. At most, she'd be angry at Lin Yi for flirting with girls while working. It would be forgivable if it was Shu, but it was Tang Yun. Meng Yao was pissed just thinking about it. Oh, then what were you doing just now, Yao Yao? Yushu asked with a nod. Chapter 640. Pinliang's mission. Pinliang had a heavy responsibility today, and that was to poison Yushu. Although it was against the law, Pinliang didn't feel any guilt at all. To him, the more damaging something was, the better it was. He was more than happy to cause some trouble in the school. Now that his uncle was no longer a shareholder of the school, it would be best if something bad happened to the school. His love for Meng Yao had turned into hatred, and it was the same for Lin Yi. With Jiangwen as his love rival, Pinliang didn't dare to have any thoughts about Meng Yao anymore. However, not pursuing Meng Yao didn't mean that he didn't hate Meng Yao. This time, he was going to make Peng Zhan pay for this and let Meng Yao experience the feeling of turning from a high and mighty princess to a poor Cinderella. Only after experiencing a huge change could a person be enlightened. At this moment, Pinliang finally understood that Meng Yao was just messing with him. She never liked him. Even if Meng Yao didn't do it herself, she allowed Yushu to do it. These two girls, as well as Lin Yi, he would never let them go. And Jiang Wen, the day Zhang Naipeo leaves the mountain will be the day of your death. The wounds on Pinliang's body had recovered. Through Yao Wang, Fabai had asked for some Dr. Kang's medicine. Other than losing a kidney, Pinliang was fine. However, when he returned to school, Zhong Pingliang noticed that his classmates were looking at him weirdly. He didn't know if it was because he was too sensitive or because everyone was laughing at him for losing a kidney. Either way, Zhong Pingliang was extremely unhappy. This humiliation would be washed away sooner or later. The Pinliang now was different from before. After this incident, he had matured and become more stable. He understood that if he wanted to take revenge, he needed absolute strength. Without absolute strength, he couldn't fight Lin Yi and the others head-on. Of course, this wasn't to let Lin Yi go, but to play dirty. He didn't believe that Lin Yi and Peng Zhan would have a mental breakdown if he didn't play along. Before the last class of the morning, Pinliang and Xiaofu skipped class together. Pinliang didn't hide this from Xiaofu. As his other confidant, Xiaofu had done a lot of bad things with him, so there was no way he'd betray him. Brother Liang, when the time comes, we'll split up and scatter these things in the cafeteria, right? Gao Xiaofu asked as he looked at the small bottles in his hand. Yeah, I'll take 4 and you take 3. We'll split up so we won't attract attention. Pinliang nodded. But does this thing really work, Brother Liang? Gao Xiaofu didn't believe that the originally harmless vials in his hands had turned into a highly toxic poison after being mixed together. Of course, you don't know this, but this poison was created by a legendary hermit master. It's called Deadly 7 Herbs Poison, and it's made from 7 different herbs. It's colorless and odorless, and one herb alone won't have any poison. Only when all 7 of them are eaten together will it turn into a deadly poison. It's extremely secretive, and it's a must-have for murder, Pinliang said proudly. Holy sh*T, that's so awesome. If the students who ate all 7 dishes at the same time were to die, wouldn't they? Gao Xiaofu exclaimed. That's true. Even if the forensic doctor comes, they won't be able to find anything. If they take out a single dish and test it, there's no poison in it. Even if they send the students to the hospital, there's no antidote. They can only wait for death in the hospital. Pinliang nodded. But we wouldn't be able to harm Peng Zhan if the forensics team couldn't find anything. Even the hospital would be able to confirm that the food wasn't poisoned. Wouldn't the school have nothing to do with the poisoning? Xiaofu asked, feeling that something wasn't quite right with the situation. Idiot. Don't you know what's the scariest thing in the world? Pinliang said with disdain. The unknown. Only the unknown is the scariest thing. Why are people afraid of ghosts? Because ghosts are unknown. No one has seen what they look like, so everyone is afraid of them. Similarly, even if the hospital found out that the students ate the poisoned food, how much impact would it have on Peng Zhan? He's a victim, poisoned as well. If he had to pay some money, people might even say that he's a good guy and a victim. But what if there's no poison in the food? That's right. Xiaofu understood. There's no poison in the food, but the students? That's even scarier. So, before this riddle is solved, which parent would dare to send their child to school? What if they get poisoned again? All the parents would band together and make a fuss, and Peng Zhan would be in a lot of trouble, Pinliang said. Plus, the hospital didn't even find out the cause of the poisoning, so Peng Zhan would have to take responsibility. The students were poisoned in school, so who else would the parents turn to if not Peng Zhan? He'd have to pay for it. Haha. You're right. It seems like I'm not as thorough as you, Liang bro. Xiaofu sighed. All right, let's go and poison the food. The cafeteria should be ready by now, Pinliang said proudly after hearing Xiaofu's words. All right, let's go poison the food. Before Gubong resigned, Pinliang was a regular at the cafeteria. He'd come early to eat. He often skipped classes, so he didn't have to wait until the last period to eat. Plus, he was the nephew of the school director, so the cafeteria manager didn't want to piss him off. Pinliang was spending money anyway, so he just had to open the cafeteria a little earlier. He wouldn't lose anything. As usual, Pinliang brought Xiaofu to the entrance of the cafeteria. The cafeteria wasn't open yet. Pinliang knocked on the door of the cafeteria, and a worker came running out. He quickly opened the door and let Pinliang in. Gubong had left, but that was something only the higher-ups knew about. Even the cafeteria manager might not have gotten the news right away, let alone the cafeteria workers. They thought that Pinliang had the backing of the school board, and they didn't want to piss him off. Chapter 641. Canteen poisoning. Pinliang calmed down when he saw that these people didn't seem to know about his uncle's resignation. He waved his hand and said, "I went out to eat a while ago. You go back to your work. I'll go to the kitchen and see what they have today." "All right, Master Zhong." The waiter nodded and went back to his work, ignoring Pinliang. It wasn't the first time Pinliang went to the kitchen anyways. The canteen was still preparing to open for business, so the dishes weren't brought out yet. They were all placed in the kitchen. Even if Pinliang wanted to eat, he would choose the dishes in the kitchen. Pinliang pushed open the kitchen door and walked in arrogantly. He let out a sigh of relief when he saw that the chef was the only one in the kitchen. Most of the time, the chef wasn't the only one in the kitchen. There were also choppers and bakers, but there was only one dish left today. The others had gone out to help clean up the tables and chairs in preparation for business. In order to save money, a high school cafeteria didn't have that many waiters. Most of them were part-timers. Pinliang turned to the chef who was preparing the last dish and asked, "How's the food today? Is there anything good?" The chef turned around and saw that it was Pinliang, but he didn't mind. He didn't like people who relied on their family's power, but he was still working in someone else's territory, even if he had a skill. So what if he relied on his hands to make a living? They could just fire him and hire a new chef. Therefore, the chef said, "There's only one dish left, the stewed pork ribs and potatoes. It'll be ready soon. The rest is ready. Have a look yourself." "Oh, then I'll try it first. See if it's good." Pinliang walked to the chef's side and looked at the stewed ribs and potatoes in the pot. "Go get me a bowl and get me a piece of ribs. I want to try it." "All right, wait." The chef had no choice but to leave the kitchen to get a bowl for Pinliang. The utensils weren't in the kitchen, but in the disinfection room. Pinliang waited for the chef to leave before quickly taking out a small bottle from his pocket. He opened the lid and poured the powdered poison into the pot of stewed pork ribs and potatoes. Xiaofu, on the other hand, wasn't idle either. He started pouring poison into the other dishes. The utensils were still being sterilized, and the chef had to close the cabinet before he could take them out. This was enough time for Pinliang and Xiaofu to work. The two poured all the poison into the pot, but the chef wasn't back yet. The school's daily menu consisted of 6 dishes and 1 soup, just right. 7 bottles of poison were just right. If there was one less dish, it would be difficult to operate. In fact, there were very few people who would order 6 dishes and 1 soup for a meal. Apart from those rich people, almost no one would do so. However, many students who were close to each other would gather at a table in groups of 3 to 5. Each person would buy 1 or 2 different dishes, and they would be able to gather 6 dishes and 1 soup. This kind of situation was very common among students, and it greatly increased the chances of being poisoned. When the chef came back with the utensils, Pinliang was already standing next to the pot of stewed pork ribs and potatoes. He said impatiently when he saw the chef, "Why are you so slow? Hurry up, I can't wait." "The utensils are in the disinfection cabinet. It's not convenient to take them out," the chef explained with a bitter smile. "Master Zhong, why don't you try it now?" "Yes, hurry up." Pinliang nodded and pointed at the pot. "This rib, this one. It's fatty." The chef quickly scooped out the rib Pinliang wanted and handed it over. Pinliang impatiently put the rib into his mouth, yelling, "Delicious! Give us 2 portions of this stewed pork ribs and that egg soup. Give us 2 bowls too. 1 dish and 1 soup." The chef looked at Pinliang, uncertain. Why did Pinliang order these 2 dishes this time? With Pinliang's personality, he wouldn't order everything, but at least 3 or 4. "I don't really like the others." "Hurry up. get me more meat. Pin Liang said impatiently. Okay, okay. The chef realized that Pin Liang didn't like the others. No wonder. He quickly got them 2 portions of stewed pork ribs and 2 bowls of egg soup. Pin Liang and Xiaofu took 2 steamed buns each and sat down. Liang bro, there's poison in the food. Can we still eat it? We can't die, right? Xiaofu was scared and didn't dare move his chopsticks. Fuck, I would have died if I could die. I just finished the ribs. Pin Liang curled his lips. Oh, but there's still egg soup, right? We can't be poisoned if we eat both, right? Xiaofu was still worried. You idiot. I wouldn't eat it if I could be poisoned. Pin Liang glared at him. Yawang said that if you eat these 2 herbs together, not only will it not be poisonous, but it can also strengthen the kidney and boost the yang energy. I see. Xiaofu nodded, but didn't dare move his chopsticks. Hurry up and eat. We're here to poison the food, and if we don't eat something before we leave, people might suspect us. Pin Liang said as he started eating. Xiaofu had no choice but to bite the bullet. After a few bites, he felt that the food was delicious, and there wasn't anything wrong with his body, so he started eating. After eating, Pin Liang left with Xiaofu. After all, they had just poisoned the food, and it wasn't good to stay in the cafeteria for too long. Boss, what are you thinking about? Xiaobo turned around to see Linny frowning as the last class of the morning ended. It was lunch break, and Xiaobo asked curiously. It was the last semester of 12th graders, and time was precious. Kong Xiaobo had to study hard, so he spent the whole morning reading books other than greeting Lin Yi. Nothing. Let's go eat? Linny was thinking of an excuse to get close to Jiangwen and ask about Lingshan. Linny had promised Huijuan that he would help, but he didn't have a starting point. If it was before, Lin Yi would have barged into Jiangwen's house and asked for Lingshan, or he'd kill him if he didn't give it to him. But now wasn't the time. Even if he killed him, he had to find a way to do it discreetly. He couldn't get involved with Lingshan. Chapter 642. Be in a dilemma, no, I'll call her. Linny said as he walked out of the classroom with Kong Xiaobo. He was about to make a call when he saw Xinwen pulling Tang Yun out of the classroom. Linny smiled and put down the phone. He walked over with Kong Xiaobo. Let's go to the cafeteria together? And Tang Yun combed the hair on her forehead and nodded slightly. The scar on his head had already disappeared, and there was no sign of injury at all. Lin Yi, I heard you broke Zhao Qibing's legs? Lu Xinwen was a violent person, and she admired Lin Yi for breaking Zhao Qibing's leg. When Qibing came to the slums to show off, Xinwen had wanted to pick up a knife and fight him to the death. She was violent, but she wasn't an idiot. She knew that Qibing had bodyguards around him, and she wouldn't be able to do anything to him even if she went. Xinwen was very angry and worried that Tang Yun's face was disfigured, but Lin Yi broke Zhao Qibing's leg, so she could vent her anger. However, Lin Yi was injured that night, and Tang Yun and Ming Yao were at loggerheads with each other, so Xinwen didn't have the chance to ask Lin Yi. Yes, I did. I was the one who ordered his building to be demolished. Lin Yi said faintly. To him, this kind of punishment wasn't much at all. Not killing Zhao Qibing was already letting him off easy. Holy shit, you're too awesome. According to the news, it collapsed because of poor quality. Xinwen naturally knew that Qibing's skyscraper had collapsed, but she didn't know that it was Lin Yi who pushed it down because the news said that it collapsed on its own. Xinwen was puzzled at that time. Even if Zhao Qibing was a developer that was devoid of conscience, he shouldn't have turned his own skyscraper into a tofu dregs project. How retarded was he? Now Lu Xinwen knew that the truth was not like that. But it's better this way. None of his houses will be sold. Xiaobo, on the other hand, didn't know about this and kept asking questions. He wasn't too surprised when he found out what had happened. Lin Yi's personality had always been like that. It was just that he'd caused a huge commotion this time. As the 4 of them talked, they walked towards the cafeteria. Suddenly, Lu Xinwen slowed down and whispered, Lin Yi, your miss is in front. Lin Yi had actually noticed Ming Yao and Yushu not too far away from them. He only shrugged when he heard Xinwen's words. Xinwen, stop. Tang Yin pulled the corner of Xinwen's shirt, stopping her from continuing. Tang Yin didn't want to talk about Ming Yao all the time. Otherwise, people would think that she was scared of Ming Yao. While Xinwen was talking about Ming Yao, Yushu was also talking about Tang Yun. Yao Yao sis, according to my latest investigation, Shield Bro and Tang Yun are behind us. Yushu whispered to Meng Yao. Yao Yao sis, what should we do? Do you have any good ideas? Meng Yao frowned and asked. He is our follower. We will ask him to come and eat with us later. He will be our bodyguard. Yushu thought about it and said. Meng Yao hesitated. She didn't agree or disagree. She walked into the cafeteria and said, Go and order more dishes. Oh, Yao Yao sis, are you asking Shield Bro to come and eat with us? Yushu asked. Don't talk so much nonsense. Go, Meng Yao said. Yushu went and bought a plate of each dish. She also bought 3 bowls of egg drop soup. It was just enough for Lin Yi's portion. The students in the school all knew Yushu. No one fought with her when she went to buy the food. It didn't take long for her to get it back. She placed it on the table. At the same time, Lin Yi and Tang Yun walked into the cafeteria. Lin Yi. Meng Yao waited for Lin Yi to come in and shouted, Come here. Originally, Meng Yao wanted Yushu to call Lin Yi, but when she saw Tang Yun, she couldn't help but remember what she said to her that night. Her competitive spirit rose. Lin Yi didn't expect the miss to call him at this time. He paused and looked at Tang Yun apologetically. At this moment, Tang Yun's face didn't look good. She didn't expect Meng Yao to call Lin Yi in the school. Also, this kind of arrogant tone made Tang Yun uncomfortable. Even if Lin Yi was working for you, you didn't have to shout at him like this, right? Although Lin Yi was helpless, he still walked over. Tang Yun followed behind Lin Yi. She nervously held Lu Xinwen's hand. She was afraid that Meng Yao would see through it. Tang Yun raised her head and refused to show weakness. Sit down and eat with us. Meng Yao pointed at the seat next to Yushu and said to Lin Yi, Lin Yi smiled bitterly. If he sat here, what about Tang Yun? Tang Yun felt wronged and angry. She glared at Meng Yao. She didn't understand why Meng Yao was so domineering. Why did she have to go against her? She could tell that Meng Yao was targeting her. Even if Lin Yi is your bodyguard, it's lunch break now. You should have your own space, right? Lu Xinwen was also a little angry. She knew Lin Yi's identity. Tang Yun didn't refute, but she had a fiery temper. He wants to protect us while we eat. Meng Yao said word by word. Yeah. What if someone tries to assassinate us while we are eating? What if someone tries to poison us? Yushu was always on Meng Yao's side. As soon as Meng Yao opened her mouth, Yushu immediately rushed forward. Tang Yun and Lu Xinwen were speechless. They were eating in the school's cafeteria. How could someone try to assassinate them? However, even though this reason was somewhat unimaginable, it was indeed justifiable. Tang Yun didn't say anything. She only bit her lips and looked at Lin Yi. However, the more Tang Yun didn't say anything, the more Lin Yi couldn't bear to let Tang Yun eat alone. Before Miss and Tang Yun met, everything was fine. Who knew that after they met, Miss would go crazy and start fighting with Tang Yun? Lin Yi was helpless. He didn't know what to do. He didn't know how to choose. On one side was his employer, and on the other side was his girlfriend. His phone rang. Lin Yi relaxed. He didn't know what to say. It was a good opportunity to have a phone call. Lin Yi smiled as he looked at the caller ID. He was just wondering what reason he should use to call Jiangwen, but Jiangwen called him first. Chapter 643. Was there a problem with the alcohol? Bro Lin Yi, where are you? Jiangwen's voice sounded normal, not at all unhappy, but that was exactly why Lin Yi was alarmed. I'm at school and bro, what's up? Lin Yi smiled coldly. This Jiangwen was probably going to cause trouble again. Haha, I drank too much last night, and I didn't know what was going on. I'm sorry. Jiangwen smiled. Are you free? Come out for dinner? Now? Lin Yi asked. Yeah, I'm at the entrance of Songshan first. What do you think? Jiangwen smiled. Sure, wait for me, I'll go out now. If Lin Yi didn't have a grudge against Jiangwen, he'd probably be thanking him right now. Jiangwen's phone call helped Lin Yi out of his predicament, giving Lin Yi an excuse to leave. After hanging up, Lin Yi turned to Tang Yun and Meng Yao. I have something to do. You guys eat first? Oh, Shield Bro, you didn't set your phone as an alarm, did you? You didn't want to eat with us, did you? Yushu asked. It's Jiangwen. Lin Yi was already used to Yushu. Meng Yao didn't say anything. Since Linny had something to do, it wouldn't be good for her to stop Linny from leaving. She said faintly, "Then be careful." Tang Yun let out a sigh of relief. Linny had something to do, so he didn't have to make a choice. In fact, Tang Yun was very nervous as well. After all, Meng Yao was Lin Yi's employer. If she insisted on eating with them, Tang Yun would be angry, but she knew the bigger picture. She wouldn't force Lin Yi to let go, but that would make Tang Yun feel uncomfortable, as if she had lost to Meng Yao. But now that Lin Yi had something to do, this situation could be avoided. "Go if you have something to do. I'll eat by myself," Tang Yun smiled, trying to make her smile happier and prouder. I'll contact you by phone." Lin Yi nodded, then turned around and walked out of the cafeteria. "You've ordered so many dishes. What a waste." Xinwen looked at Meng Yao's table and teased. "No one's eating with you guys anymore. What a waste of food. Can't we eat it ourselves?" Meng Yao glanced at Yu Shu. "Shu, let's finish all these dishes." "Oh, but I don't dare eat too much. I'll die again," Yu Shu said, a little scared as she remembered how she ate last time. "Then I'll eat." Meng Yao didn't want Xinwen and Tang Yun to look down on her. She picked up the chopsticks and started eating. Xinwen curled her lips and pulled Tang Yun to another table with Kong Xiaobo. Kong Xiaobo, on the other hand, was dumbfounded. He only came back to his senses when Xinwen pulled him. "Boss and them?" Kong Xiaobo didn't know about the relationship between Lin Yi, Meng Yao, and Yu Shu. Xinwen explained to him as they walked. The situation was complicated, and it wasn't something that could be explained in a few words. Lin Yi left the school and saw Jiang Wen's car parked in front of the school gate. Jiang Wen pressed the horn twice and stuck his head out. "Lil bro Lin Yi, over here." Lin Yi got in the car and Jiang Wen started the engine. "I'm sorry about yesterday. I drank too much and lost my composure. Let's eat and talk?" "Up to you." Lin Yi could roughly guess that Jiang Wen didn't have any good intentions. Yu Shu's words yesterday almost made Jiang Wen go berserk, and from the faint hatred in Jiang Wen's eyes, Lin Yi knew that Jiang Wen was already treating him as a love rival. But Lin Yi didn't bother to explain. He was here to find out Ling Shan's whereabouts. Jiang Wen nodded. "Starlight Hotel, it's just the two of us. Let's talk." On the way, Jiang Wen chatted with Lin Yi, but he didn't say anything important. Lin Yi didn't mind. The car stopped in the parking lot of Starlight Hotel, and the two got off the car. Under Jiang Wen's guidance, they went to a room that was a little smaller than yesterday's. Evidently, the food was pre-ordered by Jiang Wen. In the room, the wine was already prepared, and the dishes were served not long after the two sat in the room. "Lil bro Lin Yi, let me toast to you first. Take it as a punishment for my lack of composure yesterday." Jiang Wen raised his glass and drained it. Lin Yi didn't raise his glass. He waited for Jiang Wen to finish before asking, "And bro, is there something you want to talk to me about?" "Indeed. But, Lil bro Lin Yi, let's drink first. We'll talk about other things later." With that, Jiang Wen poured a glass of wine for Lin Yi and filled his own as well. "Come, let's have a drink." Lin Yi nodded and picked up his glass. However, the jade on him reacted immediately and started to warn him. Lin Yi smiled coldly in his heart. Jiang Wen really wasn't willing to give up. He was trying to do something to him again. However, Lin Yi didn't expose him. He still raised his glass and took a sip of the wine. Then, he put the glass down and started to think of a plan. What Jiang Wen put in the glass was a very common knockout drug. After drinking it, the person would feel drowsy and pass out soon after. Mystic Class wasn't strong enough to force the poison out of his body. Without the help of needles, Lin Yi wouldn't be able to expel the poison out of his body. As a result, Lin Yi wasn't stupid enough to drink the drug directly. This drug was very common. Lin Yi's antidote could neutralize it. When he was on a mission in the forest in Africa, there were a lot of hallucinogenic plants and poisonous insects. If he didn't have this kind of drug with him, it would be very dangerous. However, after returning to the city, this situation didn't exist anymore. Lin Yi didn't bring the antidote with him. He was regretting it now. "What's wrong, lil bro Lin Yi? Are you not going to give me face?" Jiang Wen saw that Lin Yi didn't finish the wine in one gulp and put it down instead. "And bro, I don't feel safe. Is there a problem with the wine this time?" Lin Yi pretended to be worried and asked. Chapter 644. Chapter 644. Linny fainted, really? Linny didn't seem to believe it. There's nothing wrong with the cup, right? I say, Linny bro, you sure are cautious. Jangwon shook his head with a smile. But it's fine. If you think there's something wrong with the cup, we can swap. You use my cup and I use yours? I'm not swapping. I'll drink your cup. How's that? Sure. With that, Linny stood up with his cup in hand and walked to Jangwon. He crouched down and placed his free hand on Jangwon's shoulder, as if he was afraid that he'd fall. He looked at Jangwon's cup for a while before swapping his cup with Jangwon's and returning to his seat. Linny bro, you're hurting my pride by doing this. I don't mean to hurt you, but you're thinking of me like this. All right, let's drink. Jangwon raised the cup Linny had just swapped and drank it all in one gulp. In actuality, Jangwon had drugged the wine, but he'd taken the antidote beforehand, so the drug had no effect on him. Seems like I'm being too careful. Linny laughed at himself before raising his cup. Between Linny's fingers, however, was a pill-like object. It was from a small bottle he'd gotten from Jangwon's pocket. Linny first licked the pill between his fingers, confirming that it was the antidote. He then swallowed the antidote while drinking. This saved Linny a lot of energy. With the antidote in his hand, Linny didn't have to think of anything else. Otherwise, Linny might have to sneak a few needles into his body while drinking. He didn't have the antidote, but Linny had his needles with him. Jangwon smiled to himself when he saw that Linny was finally willing to drink. You may be cunning, but you didn't expect me to be so smart, did you? I didn't drug you only in your wine glass, but all of it. I just took the antidote first. Lil bro Linny, your big brother, like Ming Yao. You know that, so I won't say much. I invited you here today because I want you to tell me one thing. What's your relationship with Ming Yao? Jangwon had made up his mind to deal with Linny, but he still wanted to confirm the relationship between Linny and Ming Yao. Heh, didn't I say it before? She's my employer, Linny said indifferently. But why did Yushu say that Yao Yao and you? Jangwon wasn't happy that Linny wouldn't admit to it. Ming Yao didn't confirm Yushu's words yesterday, but she didn't deny it either. From Jangwon's point of view, Linny and Meng Yao's relationship was very close. She's always been like that, don't you know? Linny shrugged. Is that so? It seems that lil bro Linny still thinks of me as an outsider. You don't want to tell me the truth. Jangwon was even more annoyed that Linny wouldn't admit to it. I'm not an unreasonable person. If there's really something going on between you and Meng Yao, I'll give you my blessings as long as Meng Yao is willing. Thank you, at least for now. I don't know if there'll be anything in the future. Linny didn't need to lie to Jangwon. Forget it. Let's drink. Jangwon raised his glass again. Linny clinked his glass with Jangwon's and drank it all in one gulp. It was about time. The drug should be taking effect soon. Linny held his forehead. And bro, isn't the alcohol going to my head? Why do I feel dizzy? No way. Isn't this the law fight we drank yesterday? Why would it go to my head? Jangwon knew that the drug was working just by looking at Linny's face. He was overjoyed, but put on a weird look on his face. What's going on? Although, Jangwon really wanted to point at Linny right now and yell, who told you to steal Meng Yao from me? I'll cut off your kidney and see how you're going to fight me then. But Jangwon didn't dare to do that. He knew how strong Linny was. He was at least a golden class master. He was afraid that Linny would attack him the moment he fainted. But, I'm really dizzy. Linny fainted on the table. Linny was an expert in medicine. He knew the effects of drug poisoning like the back of his hand. Jangwon couldn't see through his act. Plus, the drug was administered by Jangwon himself. Naturally, he wouldn't suspect that Linny was faking it. Seeing that Linny had fainted, Jangwon was overjoyed. He took out his phone and called the tattooed guy who was waiting nearby. Come in. He has fainted. Help me get him out of here, Jangwon said and hung up. After a while, the tattooed guy pushed the door open. When bro, it's done? Yes, it's done. Help me get him out. Jangwon stood up and pointed at Linny. The tattooed guy nodded and carried Linny out of the room with Jangwon. There were a lot of customers and waiters in the hotel, but no one paid attention to Jangwon and the tattooed guy. After all, there were a lot of drunk people here. Some were being helped out by their friends, some were being dragged out, and some were being carried out. No one cared if Linny had fainted or was drunk. Linny, you didn't expect this, did you? Going against me? I'll let you have a taste of losing a kidney, Jangwon said as he glared at Linny in the back seat after getting in the car. One bro, will there be any problem if we cut off his kidney? Will he call the police after he finds out about us? The tattooed guy asked worriedly. After all, Lin Yi knew Jangwon. If he lost a kidney, Jangwon would be the first suspect. He won't. This kid is not a good person. He has killed many people before. He won't call the police. Jangwon didn't believe that Lin Yi would call the police. Sihua said that 2 of his golden class masters died in Lin Yi's hands. Plus, if he asks, we'll just say that he was drunk and left him at the hotel. As for who cut off his kidney, he doesn't have any evidence. The tattooed guy nodded. Since Jangwon said that everything was fine, he wouldn't ask anymore. He started the car and drove to the HQ. Chapter 645. What a coincidence if he didn't bring Lin Yi to his base. He would have to think of a way to follow Jangwon. But now, he didn't even need to follow Lin Yi anymore. Jangwon drove him to the HQ himself. Oh right. Has Dr. Wang made the arrangements? Jangwon asked. Yes, Dr. Wang is already in the operating room. He can do the surgery anytime. The tattooed guy said, oh right, the girl we caught yesterday. Are we going to push her to the operating table as well? Oh, there's no rush. Let's cut off Lin Yi first. Lingshan will be at the back. Jangwon's hatred towards Lin Yi had reached a certain level. As for Lingshan, it was secondary. Lingshan is awake? Based on the time, she should be waking up soon, right? The tattooed guy calculated the time and said, then why don't you go in and get some knockout drugs? She's a golden class master, and even though our prison door is pretty sturdy, what if she escapes? Jangwon panicked. That's right. Okay, I'll make the arrangements now. The tattooed guy was shocked as well. He quickly called the aquiline nose guy. The aquiline nose guy had returned to the HQ yesterday. He was one of the tattooed guy's confidants, but he didn't know about Jangwon's existence. In fact, in the entire kidney trafficking organization, Jangwon was at the top of the pyramid. The only people who knew about him were the tattooed guy and Dr. Wang. Tattooed bro, what's up? The aquiline nose guy picked up the phone quickly. The girl we caught yesterday. Get her some knockout drugs. The tattooed guy ordered. Knockout drugs? Okay, I'll do it now. The aquiline nose guy was startled. Why was there a need for knockout drugs? Was there a need for knockout drugs when he was playing with women in the HQ's prison? Even if the girl screamed and screamed, it didn't matter. Yes. The aquiline nose guy suddenly realized that there were many types of knockout drugs. Could it be that the drug the tattooed guy was talking about was the aphrodisiac? The aquiline nose guy felt that it was highly possible. Otherwise, why would there be a need for knockout drugs? Therefore, the hook-nosed man did not dare to delay and hurriedly carried out the order. Lin Yi was in the back of the car when he heard about Lingshan. It was quite a pleasant surprise. This was really a case of walking all over the place in iron shoes, only to find it by chance without even looking for it. So, Lingshan was locked in the dungeon. This was an important piece of information. The car slowly drove to a manor that looked like a villa. Lin Yi remained unconscious. After entering the manor, Lin Yi was pushed onto a stretcher and pushed into a white room. On one side of the wall was a pile of instruments. Jangwon put on a mask as well, disguising himself as a normal medical worker. His identity couldn't be exposed in this kidney trafficking organization. Lin Yi's finger was cut, and some blood samples were taken for testing. The reason why Lin Yi allowed these people to do what they wanted was because he had his own plans. These people wouldn't cause any harm to him, so Lin Yi might as well continue to pretend to be unconscious. As for Lingshan, Lin Yi was sure that before his kidney was cut, she would be safe, so Lin Yi wasn't in a hurry. These medical workers came and went quickly. After checking Lin Yi's body and drawing his blood, they all left the room. Only the tattooed guy and Jangwon were left in the room. After a while, a medical worker wearing a white coat walked in again and passed a report to the tattooed guy. Boss, this person's kidney matches the one you asked us to pay attention to. Oh? The tattooed guy took the report from Lin Yi and was slightly stunned. He then waved his hand at the medical worker and said, "You can leave first." Yes. The medical worker left the room respectfully. When bro, Lin Yi's kidney is exactly what Zhong Pingliang needs. Don't you think it's a coincidence? The tattooed guy passed the report to Jiang Wen and said in surprise, "Oh, then I'll do him a favor. Go call Zhong Fabai and ask him to arrange a kidney transplant for Zhong Pingliang." Jiang Wen said excitedly, "I didn't expect that Zhong Pingliang lost a kidney because of Lin Yi, and now Lin Yi's kidney is given to him. Ha ha ha, what do you call this? This is karma." "Okay, when bro, I'll go arrange it now." The tattooed guy nodded. "I'll get someone to change Lin Yi's clothes and push him to the operating table?" "Yes, you change his clothes first. I'll push him to the operating table myself later." Jiang Wen looked at Lin Yi and smiled coldly. The tattooed guy went out to inform Zhong Fabai to come over and do the kidney transplant for Zhong Pingliang. On Lin Yi's side, a few people came over and helped Lin Yi change into a surgical gown. Jiang Wen sat at the side and stared coldly at Lin Yi, who was being manipulated by others. There was an indescribable satisfaction in his heart. "How dare you steal Ming Yao from me? This is your ending. Zhong Pingliang is like this, and Lin Yi will also be like this." Although he did give him a kidney this time, it was because of Zhao Qibing that he was willing to give face to Pingliang. However, the lesson was given. He believed that Zhong Pingliang wouldn't dare to touch Ming Yao in the future. Zhong Pingliang looked at the students entering the cafeteria one after another, and he felt a surge of satisfaction in his heart. Some of these students would probably be sent to the hospital later, right? Zhong Pingliang was about to report this good news to his father, but he didn't expect his father to call him first. "Pingliang, where are you?" Zhong Fabai's voice was a little nervous. After all, his son was doing a very dangerous crime. "Did you complete it smoothly?" "Dad, I'm at the school field." "Don't worry, Fu and I have completed the mission," Zhong Pingliang said proudly. "That's good." Zhong Fabai breathed out in relief. "Since it's done, I can report to Master Bing now. You have to be careful in school. Don't let anyone see through you." "That's easy. Fu and I are normal," Zhong Pingliang said casually. He didn't care about the safety of other students at all. Fabai nodded and ended the call. He made an okay gesture to Tsihua. "Pingliang has already put the poison into the food. We just need to wait and see what happens next." Tsihua nodded. "Pingliang has already put the poison into the food. We just need to wait and see." Chapter 646. Too good news, okay. Thanks for the trouble, Master Bing. Fabai nodded happily. In fact, if it wasn't for Tsihua's promise, Fabai wouldn't have let his son take the risk. After all, he only had one son, and he didn't want him to go to jail. As soon as Fabai finished his sentence, Tsihua's phone rang. Tsihua took out his phone and looked at it. It was Jiang Wen's underling, the tattooed guy. "Hello?" Tsihua quickly picked up the phone. After all, they were in a cooperative relationship, and Jiang Wen would bring him a lot of profits every month. "Tsihua bro?" "It's me," Jiang Wen bro said that he has found a suitable kidney for Pinliang. He wants him to come over immediately for the kidney transplant. The tattooed guy said to Tsihua. "Oh, found it already? That's great. Thank you so much." Tsihua didn't expect that he would speak of the devil. He just told Fabai about finding a kidney for Pinliang, and Jiang Wen had already settled it. "It's a win-win situation," the tattooed guy said. "I will send a car to Floating Cloud Bar to pick up Pinliang in half an hour. Tsihua bro, you can make the arrangements." "Okay, see you in half an hour." Tsihua hung up the phone and smiled at Fabai. "Old Zhong, I have to congratulate you." "Congratulate me? Congratulate me for what?" Fabai's heart skipped a beat. He heard Tsihua say that he found something on the phone, but he didn't pay much attention to it. Now that Tsihua wanted to congratulate him, Fabai's heart started beating faster. He thought of a possibility that made him excited. Pinliang's kidney has been found. "We can proceed with the kidney transplant now," Tsihua said. "Jiang Wen will send a car over in half an hour. Tell Pinliang to wait at the Floating Cloud Bar. He can go there directly." "Really?" Fabai was very excited. He only had one son, and this was his only son. Although he didn't say anything, his heart still felt like it was blocked by a big stone every day. It was very uncomfortable. He wanted to solve it, but there was nothing he could do. He could only stop thinking about it. However, some things couldn't be solved without thinking. The reason why he let Pinliang take the risk to poison the school cafeteria was because Master Bing had promised him that he wouldn't let Pinliang do it for free. He would talk to Jiang Wen and ask him to find a compatible kidney for Pinliang so that he could implant a new kidney for Pinliang. As for whether or not Master Bing could greet him, and whether or not Jiang Wen would give him face after greeting him, Zhong Fabai couldn't control that, but it was better to have hope than no hope at all. But what he didn't expect was that Master Bing was so efficient. His son had just poisoned him, and he had found a suitable kidney source right after. Master Bing never mistreats those who work for him, Sihua said with a smile. As long as we follow in Master Bing's footsteps, we'll be living a good life. Yeah, Master Bing is really a good boss. He's worth following, Fabai said from the bottom of his heart. He was afraid that Master Bing was just using him and didn't take him seriously. But now, it seemed like Master Bing always remembered his difficulties. Even when he was lying on the sickbed with a broken leg, he didn't forget to help Pinliang find a kidney. I'll go thank Master Bing personally and show my loyalty? Fabai nodded. No need. Master Bing should be resting. Sihua waved his hand and said, You should call Pinliang first and ask him to come over. Jiang Wen will send a car here soon. Don't delay the business. Of course. Fabai agreed and said, I'll drive to pick up Pinliang now. However, before Fabai left, Sihua's phone rang again. Sihua took it out and saw that it was still a call from the tattooed guy. So he made a gesture to Fabai, signaling him to wait for a while before leaving. Hello? Tattooed bro, is there anything else? Sihua picked up the phone. Haha, I almost forgot. I have a good news for Sihua bro. The tattooed guy said with a smile. Oh, there's another good news? What news? Sihua asked. When bro, I told Master Bing that the kidney for Pinliang was taken from Lin Yi's body. The tattooed guy said faintly. What? Lin Yi? Sihua was shocked at first, but then he became excited. I say, tattooed bro, is it true? You guys caught Lin Yi? You guys are going to take his kidney? Haha, when bro has a grudge against him too, but his kidney just happened to be compatible with Pinliang's. The tattooed guy laughed. I heard that he has a grudge against Master Bing and Sihua bro. It's not just a grudge. It's a huge grudge. Sihua said with hatred. I have to thank Masterin for this. No problem. I'll hang up first. I'll send a car over later. The tattooed guy suddenly remembered that Lin Yi had a grudge against Sihua and Master Bing too, so he made another call to do them a favor. Sihua hung up the phone and was so happy that he almost jumped up. Lin Yi, you have this day? Is it over? His kidney is going to be taken, right? Fabai was at the side, and this time he heard it clearly. When he heard that Lin Yi's kidney was going to be given to his son, he was so happy that his face was blooming. Sihua bro, from what I heard, they are going to give Lin Yi's kidney to Pinliang. Haha, yeah, I didn't think that there would be such a coincidence, but it's great. I'll have to tell Master Bing about this as soon as possible and make him happy, Sihua said as he walked into the inner room of the bar to look for Master Bing. Zhao Qibing was sleeping, and he was pissed that Sihua woke him up. But when he heard the news that Lin Yi's kidney was going to be removed, he didn't feel sleepy anymore. If it weren't for the fact that his leg was broken, he would have jumped up from his bed and cheered. The person he hated the most was Lin Yi. No matter how Jiang Wen caught Lin Yi and how Lin Yi's kidney was going to be taken, he was still very happy. As long as Lin Yi was unlucky, he would be happy. It would be best if Lin Yi died in a car accident. Fabai also took the opportunity to express his gratitude and loyalty to Zhao Qibing. Chapter 647. Pinliang's family, Dad? Why are you calling me again? Pinliang didn't know why Fabai was calling him again after hanging up not long ago. Son, I have two great news for you, Fabai said excitedly. What good news? There are two more? Pinliang could hear the excitement in his father's voice, but he didn't know what could make his father so excited, especially two good news. Son, the first good news is that you'll be able to regain your manhood very soon. Master Bing talked to Jiang Wen, and he's found you a suitable kidney. I'm going to the school to pick you up and take you to the kidney transplant. Fabai said excitedly. I have a kidney? I finally have a kidney? Pinliang almost dropped his phone. He couldn't believe it. Dad, did I hear it wrong? I'm going to be a healthy man soon? You didn't hear it wrong. I'm on the way to the school to pick you up. Fabai said, That's why, son. You didn't do this for nothing. We are working for Master Bing, and Master Bing is really considerate of us. We have a kidney now. Okay, I'll wait for you at the school gate. Pinliang didn't care about Xiaofu's surprised look and ran to the school gate. Wait, son, this is only the first good news. There's another good news. Fabai was afraid that Pinliang would hang up and quickly said, The second good news is even better than the first. There's more good news? What news could be better than this? Pinliang was taken aback. As far as he was concerned, getting a compatible kidney and restoring his manhood was the best thing that could happen to him. How could there be anything better than this? Hee. The news is that the kidney you want is Lin Yi's. Fabai laughed. Lin Yi was captured by Jiangwen, and coincidentally, his kidney is a match for yours. Wahahaha. Pinliang started laughing so hard that tears were coming out of his eyes. This is good news. It couldn't get any better than this. Lin Yi's kidney is going to be transferred to me? It felt so good. In the future, when I pick up girls, I will always think that Lin Yi has contributed to me. Wait for me. I'll pick you up from school. Fabai was happy to see his son so happy. Xiaofu chased after Pinliang out of the school, confused. He saw Pinliang smiling happily and couldn't help but ask after Pinliang hung up, Liang bro, what's wrong? Why are you smiling so happily? Haha, you don't know. Pinliang hung up, still overjoyed. Fu, I'm going to have a kidney soon. My dad just called and said that he's found a suitable kidney, and he's going to give me a transplant soon. Then I really have to congratulate Brother Liang. Gao Xiaofu hurriedly congratulated after hearing the news. Yeah, I'm about to regain my masculinity. Let's see if those people still laugh at me for having only one kidney. Pinliang nodded. Other than that, there's another piece of good news. Guess whose kidney is going to be given to me? Whose? Xiaofu was far away, so he didn't hear the conversation between Pinliang and Fabai. Haha, it's Lin Yi's. Pinliang said excitedly. Lin Yi's kidney is going to be given to me. Don't you think it's a good thing? Xiaofu was stunned, but when he regained his composure, he started laughing with Pinliang. It was indeed a good thing. Lin Yi was changed into a patient's gown. Jiangwen dismissed the medical staff and personally pushed Lin Yi towards the surgery room. Lin Yi, you didn't expect this, did you? Your kidney is going to be removed soon, and the funniest part is that it's going to be given to Zhong Pinliang. In the preparation room, Jiangwen couldn't help but mock Lin Yi, who was about to be taken advantage of. Yeah, I didn't expect it, and I didn't expect it, Lin Yi said. It's okay if you didn't expect it, but your kidney is going to be removed soon. Huh. Jiangwen almost jumped up in fright. Why did Lin Yi talk like that? Wasn't he unconscious? Could it be that he was hallucinating? Just when Jiangwen wanted to confirm if he was hallucinating, he saw Lin Yi sitting up from the stretcher and looking at him with a faint smile. You, why are you awake? Jiangwen finally understood that he wasn't hallucinating. Otherwise, he wouldn't be hallucinating, right? Lin Yi really woke up. I didn't faint in the first place, Lin Yi shrugged and said. That's impossible. I clearly drugged the wine. So why didn't you faint? Jiangwen said as he slowly leaned towards the wall on the other side. There was an emergency button on it. Although Lin Yi woke up, Jiangwen wasn't nervous other than being a little surprised. This was the headquarters of the kidney trafficking organization, and Jiangwen didn't believe that Lin Yi could do anything. As long as he pressed the button, the preparation room would be filled with the drug. This was designed to prevent people who had their kidneys removed from exploding, but it had never been used before. Your question is a little stupid. Why didn't you faint? Of course I didn't faint, Lin Yi said. I have the antidote. Jiangwen was willing to buy time with Lin Yi. He slowly leaned towards the wall. Yes, you're right. Lin Yi nodded and said, You have the antidote on you, and I took it? Huh. Jiangwen suddenly remembered that Lin Yi did approach him once when they were drinking, and he even patted him a couple of times. Could it be that he stole the antidote from him at that time? All right, you don't have to think about pressing the button anymore. Go to the operating table for the kidney transplant. With that, Lin Yi jumped up from the stretcher and struck Jiang Wen's neck with his hand. Jiang Wen didn't even make a sound before he fainted. Lin Yi controlled his strength very well. He couldn't kill Jiang Wen, but he wouldn't wake up anytime soon. Lin Yi massaged Jiang Wen's body casually. These were a few acupuncture points that could make Jiang Wen feel no pain when he fainted. Lin Yi wasn't sure if there would be anesthetics during the kidney transplant, and if the anesthetics would keep Jiang Wen unconscious. So, just to be safe, Lin Yi decided to do it himself for the success of the kidney transplant. Chapter 648. Chapter 648. Lingshan's trouble. Lin Yi took off the patient's gown and Jiang Wen's clothes and put them on himself. He put the gown on Jiang Wen and a surgical cap on him, placing him on the stretcher. At least from the looks of it, people who didn't know Jiang Wen well wouldn't be able to recognize him. After doing all this, Lin Yi walked out of the preparation room and went downstairs to look for Lingshan. Other than a phone and a box of needles, there was nothing else in the gown. Lin Yi wasn't in a rush to get it. What if he bumped into Jiang Wen's underlings? Lingshan woke up in a daze and knew that she had been tricked. The other party should have already known his identity. Otherwise, after locking him in the dungeon, why would they use knockout drugs to make him faint? They must be afraid of her strength as a golden class. That's why they used drugs on her. But there was nothing Lingshan could do. She couldn't just breathe, could she? The moment she breathed, there would be drugs in the air. He'd just woken up, and there were no more drugs in the air. Evidently, the enemy didn't send any more drugs into the dungeon. Perhaps they'd forgotten that he was a golden class, and his body was better than a normal person's. Lingshan had woken up earlier than normal people. The first thing Lingshan did was check to see if her phone and signal transmitter were taken, but both were still there. Lingshan couldn't help but feel doubtful. Could it be that they didn't do a body search on her? She was right. Jiang Wen really didn't search her body. There was no need. The entire kidney trafficking organization's HQ blocked all signals. Even if Lingshan had a communication device, she wouldn't be able to contact the outside world. Another reason was Lingshan's strength. Jiang Wen didn't have a golden class with him. Naturally, he wasn't a match for Lingshan. He didn't dare to touch her. Lingshan couldn't help but smile bitterly as she looked at the phone with no signal. As expected. Otherwise, with Lu Wangli's efficiency, there was no way he couldn't find her. He wouldn't let her stay unconscious for more than a night. The time on the phone showed that it was noon of the next day. He had been asleep for more than 10 hours. Lingshan got up and checked the situation in the dungeon. At least she wouldn't be able to break through this kind of defense. The thickness of the door was something that only a golden class late phase peak could break through, and she was only golden class mid phase peak. She was still very far away from the next level, and so, Lingshan didn't bother with that pointless. She continued searching for other exits. All of a sudden, a strange aroma filled the air of the dungeon. Lingshan frowned. Could it be that the guy had sensed that she was awake and was trying to drug the dungeon again? As expected, after some searching, Lingshan found 2 cameras in 2 places that weren't easily detected. They were probably monitoring her through these 2 cameras. With that thought, Lingshan didn't hold her breath. Even if she did, she'd only be able to hold her breath for a little while. She couldn't hold her breath forever, could she? And so, Lingshan went with the flow and didn't resist, breathing in the fragrance in the air normally. But, after a while, Lingshan didn't feel like sleeping at all. Instead, she felt a sense of excitement, as if her blood was boiling, as if she had an endless amount of energy. Could it be that the guy made a mistake and sent the stimulant into the dungeon? But, very quickly, Lingshan realized that the gas the enemy let in wasn't a stimulant. Lingshan could only feel her body heating up. Her body was burning up, and she had a strong sexual impulse. Lingshan had never had a boyfriend before, and she hadn't done that kind of thing before, but this kind of physiological phenomenon was understandable. She was a normal woman. She would have erotic dreams once in a while, but she had a lot of self-control, and she was busy with work, so she could control it better. But under the influence of a strong aphrodisiac like this, how could she control it just by having strong self-control? Because of her profession, Lingshan had done a lot of research on aphrodisiacs, and she knew how strong these drugs were. With that thought, Lingshan started panicking. What were these people trying to do? Were they trying to use this method to have sex with her? That didn't seem right. She might be under the influence of the aphrodisiac, but she still had her golden class mid-phase strength. Unless they had eaten a leopard's balls, they wouldn't dare barge in at this time. But if it wasn't for this, why would they send the aphrodisiac into the dungeon? At first, Ling Shan tried her best to control herself, but as she absorbed more and more of the aphrodisiac, Ling Shan's eyes started to blur. But Ling Shan's mind was still clear, just that her body's reaction wasn't under control. Ling Shan couldn't help but moan, scaring even Ling Shan herself. Would there ever be a day where she would moan like this? Ling Shan had always been a headstrong person, but now she was feeling very embarrassed. But even so, Ling Shan's hands couldn't help but want to tear off her clothes. Camera. Ling Shan suddenly remembered the camera, and her heart skipped a beat. The criminals wouldn't be trying to film her, would they? Think about it. If the recording of her **** was in someone's hands, she'd be better off dead. Ling Shan bit down hard on her lips, and the intense pain woke her up for a moment. She had to destroy the camera, otherwise, she'd really be done for. Even if she didn't die this time, she wouldn't have the face to continue being a captain, let alone working in the police station. Ling Shan knew that she wouldn't be able to resist the aphrodisiac's effects, so she had to destroy everything that could threaten her before the aphrodisiac took effect. Luckily, the dungeon walls weren't very high, and the camera was only 3 meters from the ground. This height was nothing for a golden class, and Ling Shan was a golden class mid-phase peak. Chapter 649. The poison Ling Shan. As for the other camera in the corner, Ling Shan did the same thing and broke it with a kick. Only then did she let out a long sigh of relief. Without the threat of the camera, Ling Shan couldn't hold it in anymore. Although she didn't want to touch herself, her body couldn't be controlled by her thoughts. Ling Shan was in pain, feeling like her body was on fire, and if she didn't let it out soon, she'd burn to death. Ling Shan's breathing was getting more and more hurried, and she really couldn't take it anymore. Her mind couldn't control her body anymore. Jiangwen's HQ wasn't big. In fact, it was only 3 floors, and there was only one fire escape. Linny found the entrance to the basement very quickly. This should be the prison the tattooed guy was talking about. At the entrance, there was a metal door. It looked very sturdy, but for Lin Yi's current strength, it was nothing. Lin Yi stood in front of the metal door and didn't rush. He waited for a while, and the jade on his chest didn't react. This meant that there was no danger in here that could threaten him. This jade pendant had become Lin Yi's golden finger. It was also because of this that Lin Yi's luck seemed to always be on the rise, allowing him to avoid danger time and time again. Only then did Lin Yi kick the metal door. With a loud bang, the metal door collapsed in half from Lin Yi's kick. Lin Yi didn't want to hurt Ling Shan inside, so he didn't use his full strength. Otherwise, the metal door would have flown out. This was an easy feat for a mystic early phase. When the metal door was half collapsed, Lin Yi gave it another kick, and the metal door fell to the ground with a loud bang. Ling Shan was scared out of her wits. She stopped what she was doing, and the desire in her body seemed to have stopped as well. She didn't know what was going on, but when she saw that the metal door had completely collapsed, and it seemed to be destroyed by an external force, she couldn't be more shocked. How much strength was needed to knock down this iron door? Ling Shan knew that she wouldn't be able to do it herself, and even a golden class mid-phase peak couldn't do it. So how strong would the person be? Or maybe this iron gate wasn't brought down by human hands at all, but with the help of some equipment. But when Ling Shan saw Lin Yi step through the iron door, she knew that her initial guess was correct. The iron door had been kicked down, and this person was someone she knew. It was the Lin Yi she hated and was pissed off at the same time. Ling Shan didn't know why, but she felt relieved when she saw Lin Yi. When Lin Yi stepped in, she didn't feel any disgust, but a sense of admiration. Was it because of his strength? He kicked down this iron door? No matter what, Ling Shan had to admit that Lin Yi was strong, very, very strong. At this moment, Ling Shan finally understood that Lin Yi's strength was far higher than hers. No wonder Huaijuan respected him so much. He really did have strength. Her heart relaxed, and the desire in her body took over again. Ling Shan's hands couldn't help but reach towards her sensitive parts. This made Ling Shan embarrassed and annoyed. She should be happy that Lin Yi came to save her, but she wished that Lin Yi would come later. The desire in her body flowed out uncontrollably, making it hard for her to breathe. Ling Shan's eyes became blurry again, and the amount of medicine she breathed in was getting bigger and bigger, and she couldn't control herself anymore. No, I can't. Lin Yi is right in front of me. How can I do this? This was the last bit of consciousness in Ling Shan's mind. The next moment, the desire in her body flooded her body like a flood, and she couldn't use her brain to control her body and words anymore. Ah! Ling Shan screamed, and her hands tore at the clothes on her body, her legs tight as if she wanted to release something, but she was stupid. This was the first time she wanted to release the desire in her body, but she couldn't find a way. She couldn't do it, and so she tore at the clothes on her body even more crazily. She was going crazy. When Lin Yi walked in, he saw Ling Shan on the floor, but she was acting strangely, as if she was having epilepsy, twisting around on the floor. What was she doing? Lin Yi sniffed the air in the dungeon and found something unusual. Aphrodisiac, a very common aphrodisiac that permeated the air in the dungeon. Tang Yun was poisoned by this aphrodisiac back then. Smelling it, Lin Yi subconsciously held his breath. He didn't want to end up like Ling Shan. Mystic class was stronger than Golden class, not only because of the increase in strength, but also because the Mystic class had learned how to use the turtle breathing technique. The turtle breathing technique meant that one could breathe like a turtle and live forever without food or drink. When a turtle slept, it breathed very slowly. Of course, Lin Yi couldn't really be like a turtle, but he could slow down his breathing speed. Lin Yi breathed like this, and he could avoid taking in too much of the aphrodisiac. Even if he did take in a small amount, it was completely negligible. But Lin Yi could use the turtle breathing technique, and Ling Shan couldn't. You've been poisoned with an aphrodisiac? Lin Yi walked in front of Ling Shan, and before he could even finish, Ling Shan hugged him and climbed onto Lin Yi's body, wrapping her arms around his neck. At this moment, Ling Shan's golden class mid-phase strength was being used to its fullest, and her entire body was very light. Normal people wouldn't be able to do such a high-difficulty movement. Help me. I can't take it anymore. It's so uncomfortable. Ling Shan's eyes were closed, and her mouth was messy as she moved closer to kiss Lin Yi. Lin Yi frowned. He didn't expect Ling Shan to have such an intense reaction. This aphrodisiac wasn't the strongest, but it varied from person to person. Some people might have a mild reaction after being poisoned, but Tang Yun had a reaction too, but it wasn't as severe as hers. Don't move. Lin Yi frowned as he pried Ling Shan's hands away, wanting to push her off his body, but as soon as he pried one hand away, another hand grabbed onto him, making Lin Yi very depressed. Chapter 650. Chapter 650. Can't help you. I didn't bring my needles with me, so I can't cure you quickly. Just bear with it. Lin Yi's needles were in his pocket, but Jiangwen took off his shirt and threw it upstairs. Lin Yi didn't expect something like this to happen. If he had known, he would have brought the needles with him. I'll bring you out now. Just hold on until we get to the hospital. As for whether or not Ling Shan was in danger, Lin Yi couldn't do anything. She wasn't Tang Yun, not Lin Yi's girlfriend. Lin Yi couldn't help her in any other way. Plus, Tang Yun could use a massage technique to expel the poison out of her body. One reason was that Tang Yun didn't take as much as Ling Shan, so the reaction wasn't as intense. Massaging would solve the problem quickly, but Ling Shan's situation was more serious. It wasn't something that could be solved in a short amount of time. Lin Yi didn't want to waste time here. No, I feel like my chi is going to explode. I can't take it anymore. Help me, I beg you, Lin Yi. Ling Shan felt that something was wrong with her situation. Her practitioner's arts leaned towards the feminine type, and this aphrodisiac seemed to conflict with her practitioner's arts. Or rather, it caused the chi in her body to resonate. Ling Shan felt that if she didn't release it soon, her body might explode at any moment. Chi is going to explode? Lin Yi didn't expect the aphrodisiac to have such a side effect. He had never been affected by it before, and Tang Yun was a normal person. Naturally, she wouldn't be like Ling Shan right now. Could it be that Ling Shan's reaction was so strong because she was a practitioner? Yes, help Miss Braindead. I beg you. Ling Shan was on the verge of crying. She felt embarrassed begging Linny like this, but it was better than dying. At this moment, Ling Shan was on the verge of breaking down. Use your hands then. I'll go guard the door for you. Linny shrugged helplessly, taking advantage of the moment Ling Shan wasn't paying attention to get off him. Ling Shan was both angry and embarrassed that Lin Yi wasn't helping her. Was she that unattractive? He wasn't even interested in touching her? In actuality, Ling Shan was accusing Lin Yi wrongly. It was a lie that Lin Yi wasn't interested in her, but Lin Yi didn't do it. Lin Yi had a lot of self-control, and there were plenty of chances for a one-night stand. But Lin Yi hated physical contact without a foundation of feelings. That was why he pushed Ling Shan away. Of course, if Miss Braindead wanted to be his girlfriend one day, Lin Yi wouldn't mind pushing her down. Ling Shan saw that Lin Yi really did turn around and walk towards the door, and she was so pissed she wanted to curse at him. She'd already made herself very clear, and all she needed to say was, "Please come to me." But it was ignored by Lin Yi. Forget it, Ling Shan was in despair. She might as well rely on herself. She might as well do it herself. Although she hadn't done it before, she could try it out with her own intelligence. She should be able to do it. And so, Ling Shan bravely took the first step under her embarrassment and anger. Although she really didn't want to do it in front of Lin Yi, she thought about her own situation and that she was in the kidney trafficking company's HQ. If she still hesitated and others barged in, she might as well just die. As for Lin Yi, she didn't really care. Her reputation was ruined in his hands, and everyone in the police station already knew that she was Lin Yi's girlfriend, and she'd already done that thing for him in the hospital. What was there to worry about? Anyway, she'd always acted coquettishly in front of him. She'd already broken the pot, and it didn't itch anymore. Ling Shan started to comfort herself. Although she herself felt that these reasons were a little far-fetched, there was another voice in her head that instantly took over, urging her to move on to the next step. It was just that some things couldn't be realized just by thinking about it. The more Ling Shan panicked, the less she felt. In most situations like this, mental cooperation was the most important thing. But right now, all she could think about was the criminal organization. She was deep in the enemy's lair, and how could she focus on anything like that? Besides, when doing this kind of thing, she needed someone to fantasize about, right? Who was she fantasizing about? Movie stars? Martial arts masters? Ling Shan's gaze suddenly fell on Lin Yi. Lin Yi's figure wasn't that big, but it was extremely attractive, and Ling Shan couldn't move her eyes away anymore. Her breathing slowly became faster, and her eyes became crazy. At the moment when she was about to explode, she couldn't help but shout loudly, "Ah, Lin Yi, use more strength." Huh. Lin Yi, who was standing guard at the door, jumped when he heard Ling Shan's shout. She couldn't be fantasizing about him, could she? After going crazy, Ling Shan's eyes were a little blurry as she laid on the ground, panting heavily. She didn't think that her first time would be completed in a situation like this. Ling Shan didn't dare look at Lin Yi. She really didn't have the face to face anyone this time. Calling out Lin Yi's name at the last moment? How was she supposed to live like this? You done? Lin Yi turned around to see that Ling Shan still hadn't pulled up her pants, and her bra wasn't buttoned up either. She was just lying on the ground, looking like she was waiting to be trampled on. Lin Yi was a little moved. Lin Yi moved his eyes away unnaturally, trying not to think about these things. But he had to admit that Ling Shan's body was really good, very hot. The places that should be big were big, and the places that should be perky were perky. Women who practiced martial arts were really different. Ling Shan saw that Lin Yi had come over and quickly put on her clothes, but she didn't have much strength left. Her body felt like it was going to fall apart, and she couldn't move at all. Her entire body was just too lazy. But she had to admit that it felt really good, especially when she called out Lin Yi's name. She felt like she was flying, the pure chi and lust in her body being released at the same time, making her feel light and light as a feather. She couldn't even describe how relaxed she felt. Thinking about how Lin Yi had seen her before, and how she did something so embarrassing in front of Lin Yi, Ling Shan got over it. What else could she do? Which woman hadn't been seen by a man before? This day would come sooner or later, so what? Chapter 651. How could she break through like this? Lin Yi was really speechless. Did the aphrodisiac turn Lingshan into an idiot? Did she lose her shyness? Lin Yi reached out and pulled her up. Lingshan pulled her pants up and put her bra back on, but her jacket was already in a mess. She couldn't wear it anymore. Lingshan was a little troubled. If she went out like this and the police saw her, she'd lose all her face. Hey, where are you going? Can you lend me your jacket? Lingshan couldn't bring her tone to Lin Yi at all. It wasn't like her at all. But there was nothing she could do about it. It was already a conditioned reflex in front of Lin Yi. There's a pinhole camera here. Keep it if you don't want the recording to be leaked. Lin Yi threw a small black device to Lingshan. It was a mini recording device with a storage device. It wouldn't be connected to other cameras, so she didn't have to worry about the content being leaked. Lingshan paused and caught the device Lin Yi threw at her. Her face reddened, but she said, "You're not going to stay and watch?" Huh. Lin Yi smiled faintly. He felt that Lingshan was pushing her a little too far. He quickly walked up to her and lifted her chin. It was a very flirtatious action, and it felt like he was flirting with her. "Do you want me to watch?" Lingshan raised a brow. She wanted to resist, but she realized that she didn't hate the feeling of being flirted with. Was she a masochist? Lingshan smirked. "If you want to watch, Miss Braindead can perform for you anytime, just like just now." Lingshan was saying it out of anger, but when she said it, it felt very satisfying. It was as if she liked doing it. But did she really like it? Lingshan couldn't explain it. It was a very strange feeling, and she felt a little lost. What a vixen. Yushu was right. Lin Yi quickly let go of Lingshan's chin. This woman was a bit of a tiger, but when she got flirtatious, she wasn't an ordinary woman. "This is the headquarters of the kidney trafficking organization. I've done what I need to do. You can handle it yourself, right?" Lin Yi was feeling a little uncomfortable from Lingshan's actions. He'd inhaled some aphrodisiac already. Didn't this girl know that she was doing something dangerous? Didn't she know that even if he ked her, it would be in vain? "There's no signal here. Can you take me out?" Lingshan pulled on Lin Yi's arm like a spoiled little girl. "Really? I really didn't notice that." Lin Yi subconsciously reached for his phone in his pocket, but it was Jangwen's phone. It was a very special phone, like the walkie-talkie. But Lin Yi had seen a phone like this before. It should be a special phone for internal use, using the internal wireless band. It could also make normal calls, using normal numbers, but the SIM card was plugged into the server, and this phone was like a cordless phone terminal. What phone is this? A walkie-talkie? Lingshan looked at the thing in Lin Yi's hand curiously. Lin Yi was about to explain when the special phone in his hand rang. Lin Yi looked at the caller list. He didn't know who it was, but it should be one of Jangwen's men. Lin Yi pressed the hang-up button and handed the phone to Lingshan. "Call your people. This is their special phone. You should be able to do an external broadcast." Lingshan nodded and didn't say anything else. She took the phone and dialed a number. As expected, it went through. "Lu Wangli? I'm Lingshan. I'm ordering you to surround the factory on Taixing South Street." Lingshan remembered the address when she came here, but fainted the moment she came in. Lingshan was back to her old self, and this surprised Lin Yi. Lingshan hung up and looked at Lin Yi. "You still don't want to show yourself? Why ask if you already know? Are you retarded?" Lin Yi asked. "Yeah, I'm Miss Retarded. What do you think?" Lingshan looked at Lin Yi pitifully. "Can you give me your jacket? I won't be able to see people like this." "You don't want people to see your stuff, do you?" Lin Yi was speechless. Since when did it become his stuff? But he still took off Jangwen's jacket and gave it to Lingshan. "I'm leaving." "Oh, right, when you're free, you can buy some of this aphrodisiac and try it." Lingshan paused after hearing Lin Yi's words. She looked at Lin Yi with a weird expression. "Try what? You really want to see me perform for you? See if you can break through again." Lin Yi said faintly. "You're able to break through from golden class mid-phase to golden class late phase like this. Your practitioner's arts are a bit weird." Did she misunderstand Lin Yi? Lingshan's face was a little hot. Even if it was a broken pot, Lingshan still had a sense of shame. She didn't turn on Lin Yi because she really had no other choice. Not only did she need Lin Yi's help, but he'd already seen her. What was the point of turning on him? She might as well get some benefits like before. Besides, she didn't have a boyfriend yet. She didn't have much of a burden, but Lin Yi's next words made her forget her shame. Her eyes went wide. She broke through? From golden class mid-phase peak to golden class late phase? Was this for real? How did Lin Yi know? Lingshan subconsciously channeled her practitioner's arts, and to her shock, she realized that she was indeed at the late phase of the golden class now. It was only the beginning of the late phase, but compared to the golden class mid-phase peak before, it was like night and day. Lingshan didn't think that she could break through like this. Wasn't this too dramatic? No one would believe her if she told others. No wonder Lin Yi had such a weird expression on his face. He even told her to buy more aphrodisiac. But how did Lin Yi know her strength? She didn't even notice the change in her strength. So how did Lin Yi notice it? Could it be that Lin Yi was stronger than her now? He was golden class late phase peak already? Or even, Lingshan didn't dare to think further. She couldn't believe her eyes. Lin Yi was only 18. Wasn't he? Golden class late phase peak, or even mystic class at that age? Was that even possible? Chapter 652. Position in the heart. This kind of master was what every big family wanted to groom with all their resources. A mystic class master at the age of 19. No one knew how far he could go in the future. Having such a master meant that the family would have the right to speak for the next few decades, and it could guarantee that the family wouldn't decline in the next few decades. There were so many benefits to pretending to be Miss Braindead. Lingshan clenched her fists. She decided to continue pretending in the future. With such a master helping her, wouldn't everything go smoothly? Looking at Lin Yi's back, Lingshan felt complicated. She didn't know what her relationship with Lin Yi was like. It was so complicated that it gave her a headache. This was the first time in her life that she had such intimate contact with a man. He was also the first man she'd ever seen her private parts. Lingshan should have been angry, but she didn't feel that way at all. Other than shyness, she felt a sense of excitement as she thought back to what had happened. The feeling at that moment was really wonderful. Should he try it regularly in the future? Lingshan jumped in fright at this bold idea. She gripped the camera in her hand tightly. She couldn't let this thing get out, or she'd be done for. As for being seen by Lin Yi, Lingshan didn't feel that much of a burden. She was already a brain-dead girl in front of Lin Yi, and she was already acting coquettishly. All she did was do something shameful in front of Lin Yi. It didn't matter if she embarrassed herself once. It didn't matter if it happened 8 or 10 times. Lingshan quickly threw the matter to the back of her head and started thinking about the mastermind behind the kidney trafficking company. From her point of view, it should be easy for Lin Yi to catch the mastermind, but Lin Yi didn't do it. Lin Yi came here just to save her. Lingshan knew Lin Yi too well. He was the type of person who wouldn't care about anything that had nothing to do with him. He wouldn't care about anything that had nothing to do with him, but Lingshan was glad that he would care about her. At the very least, Miss Braindead's act wasn't for nothing. She still had a place in Lin Yi's heart. He did not ignore her. Lingshan shook her head at the thought. She scolded herself inwardly. Lingshan, have you been pretending to be Miss Braindead for too long? She was so smug just because she had a place in his heart? Why does she look like a concubine in the old days? No, I'm asking him to help me, so I must have a good relationship with him. Lingshan thought about it and started comforting herself. Pinliang didn't think that today would be his lucky day. Not only was the poisoning successful, but he also got a call from his father not long after, saying that he had found a compatible kidney, and it was actually Lin Yi's kidney. Pinliang was still in a state of excitement when he entered the surgery room to get anesthetized. He'd thought that he'd have to wait for Naipeo's return before he could get his revenge on Lin Yi. He didn't think that Lin Yi would get his comeuppance so soon. For safety's sake, Pinliang's blood was drawn and matched with Lin Yi's blood sample. After everything was normal, Pinliang was pushed into the surgery room. Pinliang looked at the stretcher not far away from him. There was another stretcher with a person lying on it, but he was wearing a patient's gown and a disposable surgical cap. He couldn't tell who it was under the light, but he was sure that it was Lin Yi. Mr. Zhong, please don't enter the surgery room. It's an important place, and even I can't go in casually. What if you bring in bacteria and infect Lin Yi? It's not a big deal, but it'll be bad if your son gets infected. The tattooed man stopped Fabai from entering the surgery room. All right, I'll wait here then. Fabai nodded. I really have to thank Master Yin and you this time. Pinliang was able to find a suitable kidney source so quickly. It's just a coincidence. The tattooed man waved his hand and said. Pinliang was injected with anesthetics, and Lin Yi, or Jiangwen, was also injected with anesthetics. As for why Jiangwen was unconscious, Dr. Wang didn't want to know at all. What he wanted to do was to transplant this person's kidney to Pinliang. Dr. Wang had been dealing with kidneys every day since he joined Jiangwen's organization, so he was very familiar with kidney transplant surgery. He could even do it with his eyes closed. Swoosh! The sharp scalpel flashed, and Jiangwen's stomach was cut open. Dr. Wang skillfully cut out his kidney. This is a good kidney. Dr. Wang looked at Jiangwen's kidney and said, if we sell this kidney, it should be able to fetch a good price. Although there was a partition between the surgery room and the preparation room, the sound could still be heard. Dr. Wang was obviously talking to the tattooed man. But Master Wen specifically told us to transplant the kidney to Pinliang for free. No matter how good the kidney is, we can't sell it. The tattooed man laughed. He said that to sell Zhong Fabai a favor, so that Fabai would remember his kindness. Tattooed bro, don't worry. I, Zhong Fabai, am not someone who doesn't know what's good for him. After this, I will definitely pay Master Yin a visit to thank him. How could Fabai not understand the tattooed man's meaning? However, if his son's kidney transplant was successful, then he wouldn't have a problem spending hundreds of thousands. There's no need for that. Dr. Wang, you have to perform this surgery well. The tattooed man laughed and ordered Dr. Wang. Don't worry. Dr. Wang was the core of this organization, but he didn't have the chance to talk to Jiangwen directly. Most of the time, it was the tattooed man who conveyed Jiangwen's message to him. So, he only saw Jiangwen's face a few times. He didn't realize that the Lin Yi lying on the operating table was actually his boss, Jiangwen. The surgery was a success. Dr. Wang quickly stitched up Pinliang's wound and said to the tattooed man, Tattooed bro, the surgery was a success. Master Zhong is fine. But, what should we do with this kidney? Dr. Wang was naturally referring to Lin Yi. Chapter 653. Directly the tattooed guy dialed Jiangwen's number with his phone, but the call was hung up after a few rings. The tattooed guy was startled. Did something happen on Jiangwen's side? He wanted to call again, but he was afraid that Jiangwen would scold him. So he said to Dr. Wang, let's do it like before. Get someone to throw him in front of the hospital. One of Lin Yi's kidneys had been removed. If he didn't stay in the hospital for some time, he would most likely die. The tattooed guy knew that Jiangwen wanted to teach Lin Yi a lesson, but he couldn't kill Lin Yi here. If he really wanted to kill Lin Yi, he wouldn't need to remove one of his kidneys. It was even possible to remove both of them. So, the tattooed guy hesitated for a while and decided to use the old method, throwing Lin Yi in front of the hospital. Naturally, there would be someone who would go and save Lin Yi. Zhong Fabai thanked him profusely and brought Pinliang back to rest. The tattooed guy naturally had to drive the father and son back. This was because he was afraid that the father and son would know the location of the headquarters, so he purposely drove a commercial car with the back compartment completely sealed. As for the poor Jiangwen, Dr. Wang waved his hand arrogantly, and a few strong men came in and dragged him out of the surgery room like a dead body. They threw him into an old van without a license plate and drove towards the hospital. When they passed by the Songshan First Hospital, Jiangwen was thrown in front of the hospital like a dead dog. Then, the van drove away. After sending the father and son to the hospital, the tattooed guy drove back to the headquarters of the kidney trafficking organization. However, he didn't expect that he would get a call from the man with the aquiline nose not long after he returned to the headquarters. Tattooed bro, bad news. The girl in the dungeon ran away. The man with the aquiline nose was sweating profusely. He had poured the aphrodisiac into the dungeon and wanted to check on Lingshan's situation through the surveillance footage. However, he suddenly remembered that this girl was the tattooed guy's pleasure. If he saw some bad scenes beforehand, would the tattooed guy hate him? Thinking of this, the aquiline-nosed man did not dare to watch the video. But after thinking about it, he felt that it wasn't safe. He didn't know if the aphrodisiac worked, so he went to the surveillance room and turned on the surveillance video. However, he was surprised to find that the signal was interrupted. This shocked the hook-nosed man. He hurriedly ran to the dungeon to check on the situation. But the situation in the dungeon gave him a shock. The iron door of the dungeon had been forcefully broken, and Ling Shan, who was inside, was nowhere to be found. The aquiline-nosed man immediately turned pale with fright. He quickly called the tattooed man to inform him of the situation. When the tattooed man returned to the headquarters, he received the call. Ran away? Why did he run away? Where did he go? The tattooed man was shocked when he heard this. He quickly asked. That was Ling Shan from the criminal police. This wasn't something to be messed with. If she really escaped, wouldn't the entire HQ be destroyed as well? I don't know either. The surveillance video in the dungeon has been destroyed. The hook-nosed man said carefully. Didn't I tell you to drug her? How did she escape? The tattooed man was furious. Could it be that the hook-nosed man had forgotten about it? Yes, I did. I followed your instructions and drugged her. I was waiting for you to come to her, but who knew that she could escape? The hook-nosed man said bitterly. What? You drugged her with an aphrodisiac? Who told you to drug her? The tattooed man was furious when he heard this. Drugging Ling Shan with an aphrodisiac? Didn't he have nothing better to do? It's you. The hook-nosed man didn't understand what he had done wrong. Didn't you tell me to drug her? I did tell you to drug her, but not an aphrodisiac. The tattooed man was so angry that he almost rolled his eyes. Wasn't this guy too good at making his own decisions and changing his own meaning? You said you wanted to enjoy this girl. I thought you wanted me to drug her. The hook-nosed man said in a wrong tone. Fuck. We're in trouble now. The tattooed man understood why the hook-nosed man had misunderstood him. He couldn't blame the hook-nosed man for this. He didn't make himself clear, which led to this misunderstanding. Ling Shan was a golden class master. If she wasn't drugged, she would definitely wake up. It wasn't surprising that she escaped. The question was, where did she go? Was she near the HQ, or had she already left the HQ? Tattooed bro, did I do something wrong? The hook-nosed man could tell that things weren't as simple as they seemed. Logically speaking, it was just a kidney that they had captured. There was no need for them to be so nervous. However, the tattooed man's reaction was clearly different. Close the HQ's door immediately and search for that girl. The tattooed man ordered the hook-nosed man. He was afraid that it would be too late if Ling Shan left the HQ and could contact the outside world. Everything would be over. After giving the order, the tattooed man quickly dialed Jiang Wen's number. When Linny left, he first went to the room where he was captured and put on his clothes. He then threw Jiang Wen's clothes and phone in the room. So, when the tattooed man dialed Jiang Wen's number, no one answered until the phone automatically hung up. The tattooed man was panicking, but he had no other choice. He could only call Jiang Wen's number again and again. No matter what, he had to inform Jiang Wen as soon as possible so that he could be prepared. Otherwise, if Ling Shan really escaped, none of them would be able to escape. Suddenly, the sound of police sirens came from outside the window. The tattooed man was shocked. He raised his head and saw that the HQ was surrounded by dozens of police cars. There were quite a few SWAT cars among them. Red and blue police lights intertwined. It was a spectacular scene. The tattooed man smiled bitterly. It was over. It was really over. His remedy was obviously too late. Ling Shan had already escaped and gathered people to surround his HQ. At this moment, the tattooed man didn't even think about resisting or escaping. Under the encirclement of so many police forces, unless he knew stealth or Ultraman, there was no way he could escape. Chapter 654. Accepting the responsibility from the first day the tattooed man took this step, joined the In family, and helped the Fire Wolf gang to sell their kidneys, he already knew that this day would come sooner or later. However, the In family treated him well. His younger brothers and sisters all went to college, and the original thatched cottage at home had now been built into a villa. His parents' savings had already reached tens of millions, and all this money was sent back by the tattooed man. His family had already become one of the richest families in the village, and even the whole town. His family knew that he was working outside, but they didn't know what he was doing. The tattooed guy didn't spend much money here. He basically didn't need any money. So, all his bonuses were given to his family. The tattooed man felt that his life was worth it. His brother, sister, and parents could live a good life, and he had nothing else to ask for. He was a person who had been in prison, and he didn't have a promising future. If it weren't for the family's appreciation of him, he might be living on the streets now. So, the tattooed guy only hoped that Jiangwen, the young master of House N, could escape safely. He just needed to take care of his family. As for the crime of the kidney trafficking organization, he was prepared to take responsibility for it. It could be said that other than Dr. Wang, no one knew that the tattooed guy had a boss behind him. Of course, Sihua and Master Bing knew about it too. But they were all gangsters. No one would break the rules and report it to the police. The tattooed guy quickly walked to the surgery room before the police arrived. He saw Dr. Wang's expressionless face. Maybe Dr. Wang had the same thought. He knew that this day would come. Tattooed bro, as this day arrived? Dr. Wang's expression was dull, but his tone was calm. Yes, the tattooed guy nodded. If we get arrested, what will we be charged with? Dr. Wang asked. Even if we don't die, we'll be sentenced to life imprisonment, right? The tattooed guy smiled. You came here to kill me, right? Dr. Wang raised his head and looked at the tattooed guy. The tattooed guy nodded honestly. I'm afraid that you won't be able to handle it and hand over Master Wan. Haha, I can handle it, but I don't want to. I don't want my son to know that his father is a criminal, an unscrupulous doctor who cuts people's kidneys for profit. Dr. Wang said faintly, my son's dream is to be a doctor. He was proud of his father. I don't want him to be disappointed. After I die, can you tell the police that I was forced to die? Is that okay? This is my last request. Of course. The tattooed guy nodded. If you don't fear the evil forces and kill yourself, your son will be proud of you. Dr. Wang smiled slightly. He stood up and took out a reagent from the cabinet. This was what he used to kill people, but he always kept one for himself. Dr. Wang nimbly drew the reagent into the syringe and injected it into his son's body without hesitation. All these years, the money he had left for his son was enough for him to study abroad. He hoped that his son could walk the right path and become a good doctor. This was Dr. Wang's last thought. Then, he collapsed on the chair. Ah, it's my turn now. The tattooed guy turned around and went downstairs. Outside the HQ, the police were already shouting with their megaphone. The tattooed guy raised his hands as he walked out of the HQ. He looked at the wall of police officers in front of him, and Ling Shan was standing at the very front. But why did Ling Shan's coat look so familiar? However, the tattooed man didn't have time to think about it. He was handcuffed by the police and dragged into the police car. There were not many people in the headquarters, including the nurses and a few burly men. There were only about 20 people. These dozens of police cars seemed to be a little too much. However, this was a big case that had been registered in the province. It was normal to pay more attention to it. Bring them all back to the station and interrogate them separately, Ling Shan ordered with a wave of her hand. The Ling Shan right now was a completely different person from the Ling Shan who acted like a spoiled child in front of Lin Yi. She was back to her old self. Report, there are no victims found at the scene. The prison's door was forcefully broken. There's no one inside. The man who was in charge of cleaning up the scene came out and reported to Ling Shan. The only victim should be one of the members of the criminal group, the doctor who performed the surgery. All right. Fourth team, stay here and guard the place. The rest of you, retreat. Ling Shan naturally knew that there were no victims. She was the only victim in the prison. Now that she came out, there was no one inside. Sitting in the police car, listening to the praises and words of admiration from her men, Ling Shan felt like she was in a dream. The case was solved just like that? Wasn't it too fast? Yesterday, she was still troubled by the case. But today, she got a complete victory. Linny, what kind of person are you? Ling Shan suddenly couldn't understand Linny anymore. She just asked for his help yesterday, and today, the case was solved. Although it was a coincidence, Lin Yi's strength was undeniable. Unknowingly, Ling Shan's attitude towards Lin Yi had changed. Before, she thought that Lin Yi was just lucky, but now it seemed like that wasn't the case. Her thoughts before were really laughable. She wanted to compete with Lin Yi? Thinking back to the scene where Lin Yi kicked down the prison door with one foot, Ling Shan couldn't help but sigh. Although she was a late-phase golden class now, and that door shouldn't be a problem for her anymore, it wasn't something that could be kicked down with just 1 or 2 kicks. Before, Ling Shan wasn't used to acting like a spoiled brat in front of Lin Yi, but now, she seemed to have gotten used to it. At least she wasn't angry anymore. Instead, she felt an indescribable satisfaction. Was there really something wrong with her? Why did it seem like she was a masochist? Captain Song, I'm afraid you're going to be promoted this time, right? Lu Wangli and Ling Shan were quite familiar with each other. When Ling Shan first came to the police station, she was the captain of first team. She was also Lu Wangli's direct superior. I just got promoted. Why would I get promoted again? Although Ling Shan said that, she was secretly looking forward to it. Even if she didn't get promoted, she would at least get promoted, right? Chapter 655. Yao Yao fainted from anger? Let's wait for the interrogation results to come out first. We don't know if these people are all the criminals. Are there any that escaped? Ling Shan felt that this case was solved too quickly, and the criminals didn't even put up a fight before surrendering. Ling Shan felt that it was a little strange. Although they didn't have any hostages, and it was impossible for them to escape from the police, Ling Shan still felt that there was more to it than meets the eye. Especially the main surgeon. Why did he commit suicide? Did he have no choice, or did he commit suicide? She had to investigate all of these, and it was too early to say that the case was solved. Meng Yao didn't have a big appetite. Although she was eating as much as she could, 6 dishes and 1 soup wasn't something she could finish alone. She ate a few mouthfuls of each dish and was almost full. Meng Yao could only comfort herself. Although she didn't eat much, she ate every dish. This way, the nutrition was balanced, and her body was healthy. Who cared if Tang Yun thought that she was wasteful? As long as she was happy. With that thought, Meng Yao didn't force herself to eat anymore. After a few mouthfuls, she put down her chopsticks. Shoo, I'm full. Let's go back to class. Oh, but Yao Yao sis, you haven't finished yet? Yushu pointed at the food on the table. Nope, I can't eat anymore. You don't want me to become like you last time, do you? Meng Yao really couldn't eat anymore. Oh, never mind then. Yao Yao sis, you always want to assassinate me, but I don't want to assassinate you, Yushu said. Meng Yao was speechless. When did I assassinate you? The two walked out of the cafeteria hand in hand. When they passed by Tang Yun's table, the miss raised her head proudly. She didn't even look at Tang Yun. Xinwen curled her lips. What are you so proud of? You can't finish it, right? What a waste of food. Meng Yao was angry, but she didn't care. This kind of thing wouldn't be solved in a short period of time. There were more people in the cafeteria now, and Meng Yao didn't want people to laugh at her. Back in the classroom, Meng Yao and Yushu took out their MP4s and started watching cartoons. They'd watch cartoons whenever they had free time in the afternoon. Yao Yao, has Zhong Pingliang been bothering you these past few days? Yushu, on the other hand, wasn't used to it. Pinliang used to chase after Meng Yao every day, and Yushu was always able to get some benefits from him. What? You want him to come? Meng Yao felt that her life was much more peaceful without Pinliang bothering her. Oh, he's not bothering you anymore, so you don't need a shield anymore? Is Shield Bro going to be fired? Yushu said, a little reluctant. Yushu's words startled Meng Yao. She hadn't thought of this problem before, and she hadn't thought about it at all. That was right. He'd asked Lin Yi to come in the first place to find a shield and get rid of Pingliang's harassment. Now that he had achieved his goal, Zhong Pingliang had shed all pretense of cordiality with him. After what had happened before, there was no way he would pursue him anymore. So Lin Yi's work is really over? The miss felt a little sour in her heart. She hadn't spent a long time with Lin Yi, but it wasn't short either. She seemed to have gotten used to his existence. Meng Yao was a little annoyed that Yushu suddenly brought this up. If Yushu didn't say it, she could pretend that nothing had happened. She wouldn't have deliberately thought about it, and Lin Yi would still be the old Lin Yi, her follower. But now that Yushu said it, did she have to fire Lin Yi? He was so despicable, flirting around. He deserved to be fired. But he seemed quite pitiful, didn't he? An orphan came to work in a foreign city, and if she fired him, what would he do? Out of sympathy, she couldn't fire him for now. She couldn't burn the bridge after she'd outlived her usefulness, could she? That wasn't what a good kid should do. Meng Yao found a suitable excuse for herself. Besides, it seemed like she was still in danger. Shu, Pinliang can already do such crazy things. It's hard to say that he won't be even crazier in the future. We're still in a dangerous situation, and we need someone to protect us. Meng Yao said, from the looks of it, Lin Yi is still qualified, so let's use him for now. Besides, he's quite pitiful, he's an orphan. Otherwise, he wouldn't be homeless. Oh, he can stay at Tang Yun's house. Yushu interrupted. Meng Yao raged and glared at Yushu. Was this girl doing it on purpose? Yao sis, why are you glaring at me? Did I say something wrong? Oh, I know. If you want to pursue Shield Bro, you can't let him stay at Tang Yun's house. Yushu said with a smile. I finally found out Yao sis' secret. I'm the spy. Shu 007. Meng Yao was furious. Who wants to pursue Linny? I'm the miss. How can I pursue him? He should be the one pursuing me. I might not even say yes. But thinking about how Linny ignored her, Meng Yao's blood rushed to her head, and she didn't know why, but she felt dizzy and laid on the table. Yao sis? Yushu saw that Meng Yao was ignoring her, so she called her. But Meng Yao didn't reply, and Yushu was a little scared. I'll stop, okay? I'm just joking. Don't ignore me, okay? Meng Yao still didn't move. Yao sis, what are you doing? Don't ignore me. I'm your best friend. Yushu thought that Meng Yao was really angry, so she went to pull her arm coquettishly. But Meng Yao didn't move at all, and even when Yushu pulled her, she moved a little out of habit. This time, Yushu really felt that something was wrong. Yao sis, don't scare me, okay? You're not going to faint from anger, are you? I'm just saying that you're going after Shield Bro. Why are you going to faint? Meng Yao still didn't move. Yushu didn't care about joking anymore. She was really panicking, and she didn't know where she got the strength from, but she carried Meng Yao on her back, stumbling out of the classroom, and ran towards the school's sick bay. The potential of a human body was limitless, and Yushu didn't have that much strength, but at this moment, there was only one thought in her mind, and that was to make sure that nothing happened to Yao sis. So she didn't even think about whether she could carry Meng Yao or not, and just ran out with Meng Yao on her back. You're tuning into the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.